Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another episode of Kast, and I'm here with Jonno because we have a very special episode today, taking into account that Monster Hunter has crossed the threshold of 100 million units sold. Talk about a milestone. How you doing, Jonno?
I'm doing good, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on, mate. It's always a pleasure to be here. And yeah, it's cool. 100 million, that's quite a big number, isn't it?
That is a massive friggin' number because isn't it now the second biggest franchise or something like that for Capcom?
It is. I think Resident Evil's in the top spot, but, you know, Monster Hunter's gaining on it. You know, we're on the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's number one in our hearts. It'll always be number one in our hearts. It's just that simple. Monster Hunter is extremely special, and it's been a long road coming all the way from that little niche game that came out in Japan because, Capcom had that whole thing where they did, I think it was like 4 experimental titles that they were doing at the time, right? And then, Monster Hunter came out of that. It's like, oh, what about if we just had this co-op game where you hunt monsters? It's like...
It sounds so simple, like why hasn't anyone thought of this kind of thing? And then you're like, wow, and it really just, it's the rest is history, really.
Yeah, it's been absolutely insane to see it actually go into the point where now it is a very well recognized franchise in the West, whereas before it's just this very niche game that people were playing around on their PSPs and whatnot. It's been a long road, and to see it cross over that 100 million threshold right before we're about to get some news for Monster Hunter Wilds is like, oh man, it's gonna be friggin' absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the 20th anniversary. Obviously, summer is rapidly approaching, which is when we said, obviously, more Wilds news is on the way. It's a great time. It's like everything is coming together, everything in this big, tasty pot.
Everybody's getting ready to just get completely blown away by all of the stuff that you guys are going to be bringing in. One of the things that I even brought up in my video is that I kind of feel like we could have sold even more. It's funny for me to even say we could have sold, like I work for Capcom, and so that was one of the first things.
You're a sleeper agent, yeah.
That's one of the first things people were like, wait a minute, what's this we business? And I was like, yeah, I know, man. It's just crazy. But like, I feel like it could have sold even more if it just had released day and date on every platform. I feel like day and date is such a big thing nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, SimShip is, such an important thing. And we saw, obviously, with like...
What did you just call it?
SimShip. Like,
simultaneous shipping, I guess?
Yeah, everything going out on, on
okay.
like across platforms on the same day. And, obviously we saw with Rise, we had the staggered launches, obviously Nintendo Switch first, then come into Steam, and then Xbox, PlayStation. And in an ideal world, yeah, it's awesome to be able to allow all of the different communities and our fans across the different platforms to jump in on day one, because everyone is excited, and everyone, for any game, everyone wants to get in and join the conversation and things like that. So yeah, it's good to know. It's good to know that's what the player base wants, and it helps us as we move forward to kind of hopefully try and align with expectations.
So you've also had another really cool release that I actually got to go out there and meet some of the team and whatnot, and also hang out with Eric's Gaming. I actually got to hang out with you, and one of the interesting things that I feel like a lot of people aren't aware about you is that they look at the camera, whether that is during the Monster Hunter Gathering Hub streams that you guys do, or even in these podcasts. They look at the camera. And the idea that I got was like, oh man, Jonno's going to be like this scrawny little dude. People have no idea. Okay, listen, Jonno is a giant. Like, to look at Jonno, I'd be going like this while I was on.
So you never know when you're going to encounter a monster, in real life. That's the thing. Yeah, my predecessor, Socks, obviously, is
he's
giant.
Huge.
Yeah, he's bigger than me. So, it's just in case. You never know. If you're going around the offices, you never know when, like, a Rajang or a Rathalos will come out of nowhere, and you've got to be ready. You know, we've lost too many interns to rogue monsters. So
yeah, but that was a fun experience to actually go out there, meet the team and whatnot. And you know, we've launched again. I keep saying we.
I'll slide you a $5 after the recording.
Yeah, exactly. But you guys launched Dragon's Dogma 2, and I personally really enjoyed the game. Obviously, it had some problems with some performance stuff that I feel like it hasn't even been completely solved yet, which is kind of annoying. But what was the team vibe around Dragon's Dogma 2 with the reception from the community and all that? Like, how did that go?
I mean, it's always interesting to see reception for a game, or when things kind of surprise you a bit around. You know, we saw bits about like some MTX stuff about port crystal and fast travel and, you know, information. Some that was maybe a bit more accurate than others, some that wasn't. So, you know, that was a surprise. But when it came to the like reaction to the game itself, I think everyone was like really pleased what the team had created and how people responded to it. It was really fun seeing how people were getting on with the Dragon's Plague, especially because that's such an impactful mechanic. Actions have consequences, you know, and it was fun to see how people responded to that consequence.
I didn't like the response to that, if I'm being real, because like what happened was people just spoiling Dragon's Plague to me as I was trying to stream the game. People just
no
like,
way.
Yeah, 100%. Like somebody just jumped into my stream, Rurikhan, you got to be careful with the Dragon's Plague thing. Look at the eyes in your pawn. Like literally described the whole mechanic for me, told me exactly what was going to happen, and I was like, oh come on, dude, I don't want to know these things. I think it'd be cool if I would get it organically and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually have it during my playthrough. It didn't happen at all.
Well, by the look of things, quite a few people did get it organically by surprise. And it's, you know, and it's always, you know, I think a nice little lesson there is, you know, always, you know, check who is this person you're hanging out with? Are they the kind of person you should be hanging out with? And but that doesn't mean go up to all your friends and stare deeply into their eyes.
Stare into their eyes,
flashing red. And don't throw your friends into bodies of water if you are suspicious of them.
Yeah, a lot of people made sure that pawns were given prompt baths. People were telling me that my pawn caught it. It was actually really cool, the pawn experience of people playing with my pawn and whatnot. That was absolutely phenomenal. I had an absolute blast with Dragon's Dogma.
It's one of my favorite bits, actually, going to like one of the inns or my house and seeing if anyone had hired my pawn. And I got some crazy stuff. I got like an endgame staff off someone. I got a port crystal, like, you know, and then obviously you get your collection of fruit in various states. But yeah, I loved it. It was one of my favorite things, basically going, has people been using my pawn? Because she's a sorcerer. And I was like, you know, I was min-maxing. I was like, make sure, oh god, the spell, you know, I want you to blow everything up. So yeah, that's one of my favorite bits of Dragon's Dogma, actually.
People actually straight up gave me port crystals. I received I think I had 11 port crystals or something like that. Super Rad had 17 at some point.
Wow.
And the worst part about the port crystals, because I didn't actually use that many, and what I wanted to do is I want to set up the port crystal to give away as my pawn quest, but the game doesn't let you do that. I was like, let me give away these port crystals. I have so many of them. It's not fair. There's so many people out there that don't have port crystals. I want to give mine away.
Please take them off my hands, because I think, what was it, that because it effectively can duplicate the items, right? Because if you put 10,000 gold into the
I think
thing,
the gold
whoever
is
completes it.
I think the gold was the only thing that worked like that, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, you can basically duplicate gold. At one point, somebody sent me a great sword, and I don't know how good that great sword was, but it was like it was way more powerful than anything that I had, and I was like, all right, this is just going to go into a quest reward, so somebody randomly got a really powerful great sword for hiring my pawn.
But it was nice to see how the community kind of organically gravitated around the pawn quests. Like, you know, I've been doing this to help people get money, and if I do this and then 5 other people do this, we all benefit, kind of thing. So they were invested in their quests to get greater rewards. So it's nice to see that kind of organically play out. Me though, I normally just put spell tomes as quest rewards. I was like, oh, people never know when people need a quick pocket heal, so I was putting the healing tomes on my quest rewards, just to help out people in their time of need.
I think at one point I had maxed out on those green potions that you can make, and so I just gave as a reward like 50 potions or something like that. So somebody messaged me,
you're the
oh my
potion
God.
seller.
No, somebody messaged, oh my God, I got like 50 potions from doing a quest with your pawn. That was one of the best rewards. And I was like, well, great. Now I'm glad you liked it. I was just, this thing is filling my inventory. I'm going to get rid of it. Here you go. 50 potions for everybody. Let's go.
Yeah, everyone's a winner.
No, but that was it was an absolutely fun time. I think they've done a phenomenal job with the game. The biggest complaint that I would have is I feel like once you finish the game once, then there's no real challenge left because the monsters don't scale in New Game Plus. You don't know if there's any plans to do anything with that?
Oh no, say like whilst I've been gushing about Dragon's Dogma, I'm not on the team for Dragon's Dogma, so I have the same visibility that you or anyone else playing the game has on it. Because I'm not in the meetings, so I don't have access to the files and stuff like that. So I genuinely have no idea on that one.
I need to go harass Kat some more on that and be like, hey, Kat, can we have more difficulty in Dragon's Dogma 2? Because I'm pretty sure that everybody wants a little bit more challenge after they get giga overpowered. Especially,
you know what?
Especially if you're playing a sorcerer, because like sorcerer can just one tap almost everything in the game.
I mean, you're doing all that setup, you're dancing around and then, casting some meteors or, a giant tornado, as you do. But, maybe some players, if they're looking for a challenge, they should treat their Arisen like I've seen a lot of pawns, and it's just they take their clothes off. Go armorless, Just go out there, join the fashion parade.
It was actually funny because I saw some people making the point that like, oh my God, the game is so pay to win. This is why they're selling you rift crystals. Look at this pawn. This is the pawn that I want to hire. And it was like a pawn that was full of like sexy armor and stuff, right? It's like this female pawn all chucked in sexy armor. And it was, I don't know, 60 levels above the person that was trying to hire it.
Oh gosh.
And he was like, see, look, I could buy 4 games with the amount. And I was like, bro, what are you doing? No, you don't understand.
Just get ones at your level. Yeah, get them at your level. And the thing is, I think you'd have to look for that because the way the game is, the default is like, it's like 2 above you, 2 below you kind of level range. And, you have to actively look for, I want someone to carry me until the end of the game, 60 plus levels. So yeah, it's always funny because the game serves it within your level range and by proxy your price range, and it's free if they're your level or below. It's
there was some stuff. Even though I will say I'm not particularly happy about the microtransactions. I was like, this doesn't feel good, but it is what it is. We are going to be talking about that in terms of Monster Hunter a little bit further ahead. But before that, so the overall vibe that the team got from the release of Dragon's Dogma 2 was over at the office. Everybody was happy, all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's great to see, Dragon's Dogma to continue to grow. Because obviously it's been, how many, is it 11 years?
I think it was 12 years since, 12 years? Not Dark Arisen, but the original Dragon's Dogma. Yeah. I think it was like 12 years.
And this Capcom up at, the statements that, it's done really well. We're all really happy. It's great to see it become, a core title.
Yeah, that was something that I read in an article somewhere. I didn't really go super deep into it, but I read like a headline that now Dragon's Dogma is now a core title for Capcom.
Yeah, and so, as someone who is a huge Dragon's Dogma fan, like back in the day, I was playing it on my 360. I as a fan, I'm over the moon to see the response and to see it get more kind of like the Monster Hunter thing, seeing it getting more global recognition.
Yeah,
it kind of pushing out and getting the attention it deserves because it's awesome. And then obviously as a Capcom staffer, it's great. Another one of our titles is doing really well and more people are coming over to it. I think it's a great time to be a fan of RPGs and that kind of RPG as well, because it kind of it stands adjacent to like your kind of Souls games and things like that in regards to the scope of the adventure and a type of challenge it offers that you won't necessarily get elsewhere. I mean, where else can you get drop kicked by an ogre after fighting off a cyclops and a griffin and a pack of goblins?
The first time that I killed a cyclops, not during the preview event, but the first time that I actually killed a cyclops in my game, I was blown away simply because I was playing a thief. And so what I do is I just straight up did one of the things that you see in the trailers, which is, I jump up to the Cyclops, I climb up to his eyeball, stab him a couple of times, plant the bomb, jump off the Cyclops, then midway into the air, detonate the bomb, and then I fall on the ground. As I fall, the Cyclops starts tripping, and I throw the ensnare, and I pull on his leg, and then he hits the side of the mountain, smashes his face. And I was like, bro, this is one of the most cinematic things I've ever seen. And cinematic in the best of ways, because I was in control the whole time. It's not like, press a quick time event or something like that.
Yeah, quick time event, yeah.
They were able to really get that combat vibe of, you're actually doing all of these crazy cinematic things, but you're in control. It's not like a cutscene happening in front of you and you get to press one or two buttons every now and then.
Yeah, and it was funny because I mained Thief as well, and then Snare was one of my favorite skills for pulling down big monsters, harpies, you name it. But then I'd go on to Twitter, Reddit, and I never really touched the warrior class. I used it to unlock an augment I wanted. But then seeing people skewering a monster and running around with it and then throwing it off a cliff was looked incredible, or charging up for basically a greatsword kind of massive damage hit, and then fighters doing counter stuff. The archers, Archer was one I leveled up quite a fair bit for some stamina augments, but seeing people who'd really mastered it and how good they were, and it's great it's people finding things they identify with and that they would personally play, whether, in a fantasy setting or D&D or whatever, and seeing it kind of come alive and how they played in this world. It was a ton of fun, because my kind of party set was me with a thief, my main pawn was a sorcerer, and then I had a mage and normally a fighter, but I'd fighter or warrior I didn't mind, as long as they had a taunt. And that was kind of my kind of the traditional spread party setup. However, I know some people specialized as well. They're like, all right, we're going all in 4 warriors. Hey, let's go.
It was impressive to me because I don't think there was a single class that I've played that I was like, I don't like this class. I don't remember a single, and usually I never play stuff like a rogue. That's not me at all.
Same.
But
I'm normally a caster.
the things that you could do with ensnare and the explosions and all of this stuff, I was like, bro, this is awesome. And then I swapped the sorcerer again. I never play casters, but the fact that you don't have to worry about mana, I was like, dude,
yes.
I love not having to worry about mana. Most of the other games is like, okay, you can cast a couple of spells, but now,
That's you done.
You're kind of done now. Have fun. And in Dragon's Dogma 2, it's like, no, you cast as many spells as you want. You go right ahead. You do your thing. It's although like I said, at the end of the game, I had to get rid of sorcerers because I was like, okay, this is too easy. This is just you would get one good sorcerer in your party. It could even just be a random pawn, so long as it was properly spec'd. And it would just, okay, here's a dragon, Maelstrom, you're dead.
See, what I liked about the casting, because they are strong, is the multi-casting. There was a benefit to having multiple sorcerers with the same spells in your party, because I started as a mage because I said I want to try caster, and then I knew I'd kind of transition to thief eventually, because also the mage has some good augments, and then I tried, obviously leveled up sorcerer as well, and then double casting your spells and watching them kind of casting together, and then obviously the quicker cast
cool
time
animation.
It's so satisfying. And my partner's a big gamer and she watched me play a lot, and the pawn is modeled loosely, because I'm terrible at character creators. It's loosely modeled off her, and then my my Arisen is kind of very loosely based off me. It's tall, and I put blue hair in it eventually. And so it's nice to kind of see that, and kind of it's us casting spells together and fighting these monsters. So that was cool as well. And I ended up kind of dressing her up like a witch, which looked really cool. So she had kind of black mage kind of vibes and stuff, and it was really, really cool. And also with that as well, talking about the gear, some of the like more fashionable kind of sets or kind of clothing focus rather than armor, their stats were good as well. So you weren't like penalized for it might not be the most hyper meta min max set, but you could kind of lean more into the fashion game a bit and not feel like you're kind of punishing yourself.
That also has to do with the difficulty, though, because like I said, I think that once you level up properly and you get your build online, it's like the difficulty kind of becomes fairly easy to do most things, which was and I wish there was some replayability with some of those last bosses in the end game as well. But when you see the title screen, once you get to the end game, it's just like, whoa, what? Wait, what?
Yeah. It's such a
some
cool...
really cool moments that
Yeah.
they were able to do there.
Yeah, it's nice that, obviously no spoilers, but there's even more new stuff in the end game and surprise moments. Because they surprised me because, I didn't know what was going to be coming and things like that. I just kind of seen little crumbs here or there from like a few thumbnails and Reddit and Twitter conversations. And yeah, it was a pleasant surprise.
People straight up spoiled it for me, like straight from the get go. Like when I jump in there, people instantly start telling me, "Oh, you shouldn't do this," and I was like,
X, Y, and Z. Yeah, yeah.
Well, why shouldn't I do that? And it's like, oh, because now it works like this and this. Oh,
yeah.
Why would you do this? Okay, fine. But yeah, it was phenomenal. I had a blast, and I one of the biggest requests for me is just like I hope the team does something for scaling difficulty, and I think that was probably one of the biggest pieces of feedback from my community as well. Is like we want it harder, like especially once you get the new game plus, we want things to get harder, and maybe shuffle the monsters around a little bit. Because, they spawn in the same spot. It'd be cool if they were shuffled around and whatnot, and it would actually change. Oh, now there's something different here or something like that. That would be cool. Even though I spent hours and hours just running through the world, I saw a lot of people complaining about fast travel, but I don't agree with that. I was like, hey, look, it's just not that kind of game. It's just not that kind of game.
I found a lot of stuff that I wouldn't have found if I was fast traveling everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And I think like the game, much like, your Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and like Elden Ring, those games before Dragon's Dogma 2, no matter where you wandered off, you were going to find something. And so you were rewarded for being curious. And, Dragon's Dogma 2 is very much that game. There's quests, there's items, and mostly for me it's the quests. I found quests with really good rewards by going off the beaten track that were like linked to my vocations. And also like when I found the misty marshes kind of area, I found that by pure accident. I was like, wait, there's a big kind of like fog of war on my map there. I was like, how have I not gone over here? It's probably just like more, like mountainous woodland, and then I went in and I was like, oh boy. And I hadn't had it spoiled, this area, and I went in and I was like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
And you can miss it if you're not doing side quests or you're not that adventurous. And then once you get a few, some gold in your pocket, you can use the ox carts to go between the key areas, and then you're never more than like, unless you get distracted like 10-15 minutes from interesting destinations. So there's, I guess the ox carts, people don't count it as fast travel, but I guess it's faster travel.
I tried doing the manual ox cart, as in without dozing off. Yeah. There were a couple of times where I tried doing that. There's also a quest that I don't want to get into too many details because of spoilers, but there's a quest where you have to carry something a lengthy distance, even though there's an alternate solution to that quest.
Yeah.
But I did it manually, okay? I did.
That, I mean, mate, I
that was the one time. That was the one time I save scummed. I save scummed during that quest because there would be random things where I would set the thing down and I would be fighting like all the way really far away from where I set it down, and one of the enemies would actually run all the way to the thing, break it, and then come back to the fight, and I was like, I mean, come on. No, I don't accept that. That was the one time. They just don't
appreciate fine art. What can I say?
Yeah. That was the one time that I save scummed just for that one quest, and because it was also fun content, just me carrying the thing around all day long. But the thing was, I tried putting that in an ox cart, and it didn't work. I was like, why can't I take it on the ox cart? And even on the gondolas, that was another thing. I put it on the gondola and then I would set it down.
That's brave because...
No, but the thing was, it would stay in the air as the gondola is moving, and I was like, no!
It's got a will onto its own. Yeah. I mean, I don't even like for you, but ox carts were more dangerous than being on foot for me a lot of the time. You know, I think my ox cart destruction rate was above 50%. But for when I use them.
Did you ever get a griffin to break the gondola?
No, I've been harassed by harpies more than I'd like to admit. And normally when I'm using a vocation that was lacking range, or I left my pawns behind because I was like, bye, and then all of a sudden the swarm would turn out.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, no.
The griffins can straight up break the gondolas, and I was like, dude, that's crazy. Well, the one time that I was going through the gondola and the griffin flies around, and I was like, huh, that griffin's really close, huh? Yeah. And the griffin turns around, and I was like, wait, what's he doing?
No. Just like, I loved all those kind of, because that was a popular thing. Also, like suddenly Griffin like coming out of nowhere, basically, which I loved. I loved seeing those kind of posts and the clips online. It's cool to know that they can take out the gondolas, though, for better or worse.
It was a blast. Like that was just a very unique experience. But now that it's a core game for Capcom, I can't wait to see what you guys are going to do with it, especially if I'm assuming there'll be some DLC, even though nobody's talking about it yet. There's already been those feedback forms and whatnot that have been sent, and it's like, hey, would you guys like to see DLC? And it's like, what do you think?
I mean, what I love to see is, like, you know, as a community manager as well, is the teams at Capcom really value community, and they love community feedback and working with the community managers across the different games. You know that with Monster Hunter, because obviously, you know, that's something that we're both super close to. Yeah. And, you know, it's the same with Dragon's Dogma. The team really care about what people are saying. They're looking at different things online. They, you know, very much appreciate the kind of sentiment reports and feedback that the community managers provide. And, you know, I know that, you know, shortly after Dragon's Dogma 2 launched, you know, the team put out some messages about, you know, thanks for the feedback on this, and this, you know, we're looking into it. So, you know, they do care, and they care what the players and the community think of their work. And something, you know, because they've spent years of their life making these games, they genuinely care about them and they're passionate about them. So, you know, they love to see the feedback, and, you know, people playing and enjoying their game. That's kind of it. Community and community management is very much valued here. And, you know, it's great. I feel very, very lucky to be in that position. And I'm sure it is the same because obviously Joe, my US counterpart on Monster Hunter, is also the US Dragon's Dogma community manager. So, you know, we talk about, you know, what the community are chatting about there, because we both played a ton of Dragon's Dogma as well as Monster Hunter. So, you know, when we're catching up, we're like, oh, did you see this? Did you see that? And all that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a really cool thing to see throughout launch. And how many? Because I know that you guys have already put out some public numbers, but I forget how many copies did it sell. Dragon's Dogma 2. Do you know by head?
I don't know off the top of my head what the publicly revealed figure is, and because I'm not directly attached to it, I don't want to guess and be like, oh yeah, like this many.
Okay, it says 2.5 million. 2.5 million on April was reported. 2.5 million copies. That's pretty good for a niche game like Dragon's Dogma, which is also kind of like crawling away from being a niche game, slowly but surely.
Exactly, and you know that is thanks to the reception and people giving it a go. Because, you know, I think, you know, especially when you drop in money on something new that you've not tried before. Because Dragon's Dogma was, you know, I said, you know, it's kind of adjacent to like Souls games and other action RPGs. It is different. And it's something that you wouldn't have experienced before in a good way. Like, there's no game that I get the same vibe from that I do. Like, I love Elden Ring and I play Elden Ring, and that is its own unique thing. It's like Dragon's Dogma. You can draw comparisons, but there is nothing else like that game. Like, there's nothing else like Breath of the Wild, or there's nothing else like Elden Ring. It's the same with Dragon's Dogma. And
I agree.
It's a game where I felt like this was my adventure, and I got to choose where I went, who with, and you kind of, if you love kind of role playing or kind of like coming up with your own headcanons, you kind of have the flexibility to do so. Like, I neglected the main story for ages. I was like, no, I'm going exploring and I want to level up and, you know, get all these cool vocation skills and augments. And then I went back to the main story, and then I went off again and did side quests. And all these wacky and weird side quests were opening up for me. You know, even kind of like stuff based like the local drama and, you know, and fun things like that. You know, I got distracted by a nice elf gentleman quite early on and went wandering off with him for ages. So, you know, it's your story mostly in regards to how you exist in this world and what you experience, and it's your tale. So yeah, if, like, I found it as someone who does like D&D as well, that I was kind of like, oh yeah, it's my little adventure, and, you know, like, you know, critical failure, got kicked into the brine.
And I know that a lot of people are going to push back on some of the stuff that we're talking about when it comes to Dragon's Dogma 2, but I want people to understand that it's like there are some things that could have been improved on. Like, I think everybody would have liked to have a couple of more monsters, a couple of more big monsters in the game, because, you know, there weren't really that many of them. But I also understand that the game is coming off on a new engine. It's a completely different engine from the original Dragon's Dogma. So, you know, there's some stuff, some concessions that need to be made there, which kind of sucks. And the other thing would be variety in dungeons. I also wish that, because so many dungeons are just like, oh, Rocky Cave number 50. And I was like, oh, I wish there was a little bit more variety there. But fundamentally, the overall experience still ended up being really positive, which is why whenever I talk about Dragon's Dogma, like, I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, like, for me, like, when you do find like the kind of I'd say special dungeons, or like the kind of like big moment dungeons, like the battlegrounds, which I won't talk about, but the battlegrounds has so many layers to it, and the things that are in there. And when me and my friend both went there, we had totally different experiences, and we found different things and how to approach the situation there. And obviously we mentioned about kind of like the marshy area and other pits like that, you know, it's that exploration being rewarded, and then you find a situation that your friend would have done entirely differently, or absolutely, you know, messed up, and we're like, no, I'll come back later. And what you know, as well, around the difficulty, it's interesting because I remember, you know, back in Dragon's Dogma 1, when you leave your first village, if you take a left and go up the hill, you get absolutely bodied by bandits and stuff. But then as you come back, I like that it's different areas of the game have challenge, and you can sneak off in there and you can give it a good go, or you can kind of, you know, so. And then as you level up, you do feel more powerful. You kind of feel like you're becoming this hero, and the world, you're understanding the world better, rather than it's like, oh, no, this bandit's now coming at me fully decked out, and it's got 2 great swords. So I was like, well, where have you been, mate? I need to go there to level, kind of thing. So I like that. I got the power fantasy. I was drinking that power fantasy.
The power fantasy that you can get with the game is absolutely phenomenal. There wasn't a single class that I didn't like, even though a lot of people were making fun of the what's it called, the dude with the sensor. I forget the name now. Damn it, the Trickster. A lot of people were making fun of the Trickster. I was like, dude, Trickster is hella fun. Trickster's so much fun. I killed a dragon very early on with Trickster when people were making fun of me. It's like, look at you, your class is so bad. And this was like, I was rank 2 Trickster in the Volcanic Isles. And people were like, oh, that class is so bad. And I'm like, dude, I'm rank 2. Watch me kill this dragon. And then I go and I kill the dragon because I had the crazy dragon roar spell. So when Dragon's getting ready to do his big meteor thing, I was like, no. Roar, and he's like, oh, I can't do it now. And I was like, oh, that sucks, huh? That's too bad.
Yeah, it's such an interesting vocation, because it's for those, if you like to think outside the box and you like to do things with style, it's hilarious. Like, it's like, you know, when you used to play, like, you know, Mousetrap, the board game, you know, and you got all these things falling into place for this kind of grand finish. But yeah, it's a very interesting, different playstyle. But the thing for me, whenever I hear Trickster, I immediately think Gunslinger, Swordmaster. So like all the Devil May Cry stuff just popping off in my head.
No, No, but it was interesting because for a while I was actually running around with a really weird setup, but it was also very effective. Which was I was playing War Master with Fighter, Trickster, and Spearhand.
Oh, wow.
And so the whole point was that the pawns are going to do everything, and I'm just going to be there and bash things with my sword and shield because I like sword and shield. And so, because I kept saying, listen, my pawn is the main hero of the story. So I would give my pawn the Mystic Spearhand shield, and then the rage thing from the Trickster, and you would just go off and murder everything. It's so good.
Oh, that's fantastic! Yeah, the buff strength and buffing up your pawns is really fun.
It was crazy.
So if you like Palico Rally in Monster Hunter, you like the Trickster.
But anyways, jumping off of Dragon's Dogma, because like I said, this is a 100 million unit celebration for Monster Hunter. One of the first things that I have to ask, like, what is the mood like at the office right now? Because we're coming off of you guys announcing, hey, we broke 100 million units, and we're about to jump into a massive news cycle of announcements and stuff like that for Monster Hunter Wilds. What's everybody feeling like?
I mean, everyone's ecstatic. I mean, obviously, I've come in. I've been at Capcom nearly 3 years, so obviously, I've come in post kind of World and Iceborne launch, and everyone, was so excited after that. And then we had, I was lucky to work on Rise and Sunbreak, and seeing the success around that and how people have come to it. So yeah, everyone is so excited, but it's also something that we don't take for granted at all. We know that it's a combination of hard work, passion, the community, the creators that support Monster Hunter. They share it with their friends, they share it with their audiences, and we know people are very, very excited for Wilds. So bring on summer. But yeah, it's we're very appreciative. But it's very much humble. It's like the team in Japan works so hard, so hard, and they're always looking at what the community are thinking and saying. So yeah, we're all super happy. It's such a brilliant milestone, and especially as well with Rise recently hitting 15 million
for
the base game and 8 million for the Sunbreak expansion. Which is a great pickup rate for an expansion.
There's usually a drop-off, which is one of the things that I feel like some people in game communities, they'll see an expansion, they're like, oh man, the game's really dropped off because, you sold this amount of million units for the main game and then you sold only this. But it's like there's always a drop-off when it comes to an expansion because a lot of people only play the first one. That always happens. It was the same thing with World as well. There's a lot less copies of Iceborne that were sold than of base Monster Hunter World, a lot less. And I think that people kind of tend to forget that. So they see, oh man, Sunbreak really dropped off, huh? It's like, no, it's more than half.
A great pickup rate.
It's more than half. That's impressive.
Yeah. And like, as you said, like, a lot of people will play the base game and they'll be like, I really enjoyed that. I've had my fill. Like people that like to play loads of different games kind of thing, they're like, I enjoyed that. And then you'll get, us like Monster Hunter players or people that really love this kind of genre of game and we're like, right, I need more. Give me that expansion. And then some people come to the expansion way later on again. They're like, oh, you know what? I got that itch. I need a bit of Monster. Oh, it's on sale. Oh, I'll jump on.
I've actually been getting the itch recently because I never did do the three. I never got to what's it called? The friggin' rank, Qurious rank, or whatever it was called.
Oh, the Curio crafting and Curio like Anomaly investigation levels.
The Anomaly investigation level. I never got to level 300, and I was like, man, I gotta at some point jump back in there, get to that level 300 so that I can do the super
special investigations.
Because I never did those. Because the grind was it was just so grindy. That was the thing. It takes way too long, I feel like.
Yeah, well, the team did alter some EXP stuff as well, so it's a little bit quicker. But yeah, it's quicker. It's a deep end game. It's a deep end game.
It's quicker until like 220. It's pretty quick to get to 220, but then it's like you hit a wall. You go, oh man, this is actually going really fast, and you get to 220. It's like, now you stop. Now the last 80 levels, you're gonna have to grind those suckers hard. So yeah, that's the thing. But I do feel like going back in there at some point. The problem has also been with Rise and Sunbreak for me is that I played the Switch version, then I played the PC version, then I went back to the Switch version, and it's just like I've basically done the grind twice. If I had focused on one platform, I would have been.
You would have achieved.
I would have achieved Anomaly Investigation 300.
It's the same with me because obviously, I mean, I personally my Rise Sunbreak experience is on the Switch. That's my personal platform when I'm, so I've invested a lot of time into that. Luckily, I kind of can stream on that, but I also have spent a ton of time on the PC version for the PC launches. And I know that Joe's main platform is PC. So, when we're streaming, we like to mix it up. And then I also played through it on home console because I wanted to play it because a lot of my friends game on home console. So I had the third playthrough. But like the most punishing bit for me, especially on the PC version, because it's much closer to my Switch version, is I'll get like a mantle that I've been trying to grind on my Switch. I'll get it on the PC version and I'm like, great. This is useless here. I needed it on my Switch, and that I'm like, So, but yeah, the end game is massive, and it's a lot. But I also like that you can use that time to really do some crazy stuff with your gear, especially at the armor skills.
Yeah, that's a bit of a frustrating part for me. I actually did not like Qurious crafting. It was very frustrating. I was because like. It's just the amount of skills that you can get that way. I feel like they kind of make it so that in a way the armor that you're using doesn't really matter that much because you can just get, you can grab whatever piece of armor and put a bunch of crazy skills on it, and it became very hard for me to just kind of like plan out my builds. I was always like, what armor am I going to use? Like, because it doesn't even matter almost because you can get anything on it. It was weird. I don't know. And the randomness of it became very frustrating because one of my favorite things about the Monster Hunter thing is that you get to go in and you have that. I want to make the fire sword. Yeah. I'm gonna go kill Rathalos and I'm gonna go make the fire sword. And it doesn't matter if it's 10 hunts or 50 hunts. Eventually, I'm gonna make the fire sword. And with Qurious crafting, the chances are just so random and astronomical that I might get exactly what I want. I might never get what I want. It might be, insane.
You'll get something, though. You'll get something. And no, I get that because, for me, I approached it on, for me, I was like, I would like these skills. Like, so for me, it was stuff like Powder Mantle and Wind Mantle because I loved those skills. So, I'd dabble a bit. And because I hadn't I've been kind of accumulating a lot of like points. So, and like monster materials to kind of throw into it. So it kind of came out all right for me. But yeah, those were the skills I kind of target farmed. But the way I kind of saw it as well, you're in the deep end game, and whilst like Sunbreak doesn't have like a Fatalis set that Iceborne did, which is kind of like you've won the game, go have some fun kind of thing, go wild kind of thing. So I think Sunbreak, how I personally kind of see it for me, the system is kind of similar, kind of like. Yeah, you're in the deep end game. We know you can beat whatever we kind of throw at you mostly. So just treat yourself, basically, kind of. So that's how I personally saw it. Especially with some of the challenges you do get at the top, like with level 300s and special investigations, kind of having your armor be a bit juicier than you'd expect does help.
Yeah, it gets a little bit wild near the end there. An interesting thing that I've found was that particularly with the Amatsu set, I even made a video talking about this, which I'm very curious as to what opinions the team has on this. I don't know if you ever spoke with people in the team about it, but like the whole concept of convenience in Monster Hunter, which is one of the things that to me is like. I feel that Rise added maybe a little bit too much convenience. So things like cold potions and hot potions going away. The Amatsu set, for all intents and purposes, just removes sharpening from the game, if you really think about it. You don't need to sharpen anymore if you use the Amatsu set, which is one of the reasons why I used the Amatsu set. I was like, well, I'm playing a gun lance. I never have to sharpen again. Okay, I mean, because my weapon uses sharpness like nobody's business, right?
Just a bit.
Yeah, so, and there's just like all of this convenience being added in. And I kind of miss a little bit of that friction that we had in the earlier Monster Hunter games.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because each, as you know better than anyone, each game, the team like to try new things or to kind of, move things around a bit to see how it goes and how that impacts gameplay. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, you could say there's a bit more convenience and obviously, not having your drinks for the different environments. They kind of maybe wanted people to focus more on, the hunting or the combat aspect, and, getting the spirit bird. So instead of drinking your drinks, you'd be spending a bit of time getting spirit birds and endemic life and kind of using that gameplay loop instead. But for me, for example, my main armor set, my main squeeze is a mix of Risen Kushala and Risen Teostra. So for me, sharpness was an issue because I instead opted into having more Silkbind attacks quicker and more explosions because I was getting the wind and powder mantles. So for me, I never touched the Amatsu set, even though I thought it looked really cool. It wasn't the play style for me, and I felt that the benefits of more explosions and more skills outweighed the benefits of more sharpness.
Yeah, but like, see, I can have Amatsu and still have level 3 powder mantle and wind mantle and all of these things. You can still have that. I think I actually have that on my Switch set. Through
a man of taste.
Through ridiculous amounts of Qurious crafting. I have like wind mantle and powder mantle and a bunch of more other stuff on there. Yeah, it's a really crazy looking set.
Yeah, I think that's also kind of the reward. It's the game kind of going, you've put the time in.
Yeah.
You've put the time in, so why shouldn't you have this? Why shouldn't you have a little treat?
After all, why shouldn't I keep it?
Yeah, why shouldn't I?
Why shouldn't I keep it? Oh. It's mine.
My precious wind mantle.
Yeah, but like for you, what do you think about specifically, let's say, for instance, about the potions, the cold and hot potions? Like, where do you land on that?
I mean, for me, like, obviously, I came in at 3U and 4U era, so, I'm very much used to those. And I don't feel that strongly either way about them. If I had to use them, I'd use them. If not, because, I use stuff like, I use the different powders, the buff powders for the team and things like that, like armor powder. So, I know about the benefits of these kind of short-term buffs or utility things. And if I need to use them, I use them. If not, fair enough. It's not something that really irked me either way, because it was very rare where I would, in the olden days, cart from like my cool drink running out and things like that. And it's always funny when you'd forgot to pack them and you were like, oh, 1 second, need a restart. But so for me, I was never that attached to them. I was like, it's a feature, it's a mechanic. If I need to do it, I will. If I don't, I don't.
So you don't feel like it adds to the immersion of the hunt?
If you're someone that feels it, yeah, like I can see why it adds to immersion because you're out in this scorching desert or wherever.
Yeah, because to me that's the biggest thing. It's not even about like the convenience of it. In a lot of ways, it's about the immersion of like, no, I'm in this harsh environment and I need to take certain precautions to hunt while I'm in, because it's part of the whole simulation thing. You need that, and you need to maintain your food levels, and you need to maintain the sharpness of your weapon and all of that. Yeah, that's kind of what differentiates Monster Hunter from like just a boss fight game in a lot of ways, I feel.
Yeah, the preparation, the managing the situation. Yeah, and I think, I guess, say, for me, the way I saw it is instead of having to spend time drinking, I'm instead getting spirit birds or endemic life, which obviously I think with the endemic life are game changers when you're using them, especially in the tough hunts, like love me toads. So that's how I saw it. So instead of having to manage my drinks, I'm having to forage for spirit birds for endemic life. So it's like you're going a bit like Bear Grylls, not to that extreme, but you're going out there, you're trying to find what you can in the environment to then utilize in the hunt rather than preparing it beforehand and coming in with your collection of nice drinks or hot chocolates, like warm drinks, keeping you cozy when it's cold.
So if you had to choose again on a personal level, because obviously this is not on you,
I know. This is going to be an interesting one. Yeah.
If you had to choose, would you prefer to have like the more traditional preparation, or would you like the spirit birds more?
That is an interesting one because there's benefits to both, and there's
Damn, I got you.
Yeah,
I got him.
It's because, like, for example, obviously, we've been replaying World recently, and it reminds me of we were fighting in the Elders Recess, and I didn't bring any cool drinks with me, so I had to go and find a mushroom, and to then make it. I was like, hold on, Joe, don't cart. I need to go get a mushroom.
Do you see that experience as a negative or a positive?
No, I think it's a positive, and it's the kind of it's kind of adjacent. So in Rise, obviously, it'd be like, oh, I need a Paratoad, or you need something to help the fight. And you're like, I forgot I didn't grab it. I need to go grab it. I'm sorry. So I think it's a similar mechanic, but presented differently. And one of them is, as you said, you pre-prep, or you have to kind of like quickly find something in the environment. Whereas in Rise, it's kind of at the start of the hunt. So when you get into the locale, you're like, right, I need to do this, this, and this before I hunt the monster. Unless I've took certain skills.
You have your route set up. I had those, yeah.
Yeah, and like you can bypass that to an extent with certain armor skills and food skills. So, there were ways to kind of circumnavigate it, make it a bit quicker if you wanted to, or you could just forego it if you're good or crazy enough and go in that way. And then obviously on the arena style hunts, you get the Rainbow Spirit Bird, which is like off you go, go get stuck in. But no, it's an interesting one, and I think the easiest way for me to narrow it down in a nutshell is that it's kind of two different experiences, and I enjoy them both depending on because World, the hunts take longer. Normally, you're going out, you're kind of traipsing through, following your scout flies. Whereas, Rise, they're like, right, the locales are a bit smaller, but it's just like, right, the monster's here. You go get in there, go get stuck in, use your Silkbind attacks, go beat that monster up now. So yeah, I think it falls down to the two different experiences. But if I had to pick one, it would be rough. It would be very tricky to confidently throw my weight behind one of them would be hard, because I kind of enjoy the different experiences, and I know that might sound like a bit of a cop out.
Yeah, it's like, because people are probably going to say like, well, he's the community manager, he has to be neutral about it. It's like, no, I think he's just genuinely in conflict. He doesn't know which one he likes the best.
I mean, when I look at how much time I've spent in both the games, as well, by both I mean World, Iceborne, Rise, Sunbreak, I like them for different reasons.
Yeah.
And the different experiences. Like, I spent hundreds of hours playing through Sunbreak, deep into the end game, and then we did return to World, and I've gone back into World and Iceborne, which I've spent hundreds of hours playing back in the day, and I'm like, this is great, and it's a different experience. It's a different type of Monster Hunter, and I like it. And it didn't feel like when you've been like, oh, I've spent like tens of hours playing Monster Hunter Rise. Like, there's no way I can play tens of hours of Monster Hunter World. And then you go back in and you're like, it's a totally fresh experience.
Yeah.
It's not like you're playing, it's more of this same game. So that's how I kind of view it.
This is one of the reasons why I personally hope that Monster Hunter doesn't end up going the live service route, because I think one of the coolest things that the team has going for it is the fact that, we make this game and we support it for like couple of months, and then we make an expansion, and then we support that for a couple of months, and then we move on, and that allows them to make what you just described as that fresh experience. This is going to be different. Whereas if you're doing it in a live service route, which I've seen people in the community ask for, they're like, oh man, let's just have Monster Hunter and battle passes. There's unironically people that think like that, which is weird for me, but whatever. And it's just like, that's not what I would want at all. I want to have that experience that lasts for a long time, thousands of hours, and then it ends. And then I can look forward to the next one, as opposed to just keep stretching it out over and over and over. But that's me, and we don't even know if that's going to be the case for Wilds or not, because we don't know anything about Wilds yet. But fundamentally, if I had to choose, personally, I prefer the World thing. But at the same time, I like having the Rise romp. So I think my favorite thing will be, if the team keeps going the way that they're going, which I think is a good strategy, is you have the more traditional one that's kind of like the World experience, which has a little bit less convenience, a little bit longer hunts, more about the immersion and all of that stuff. And then when you're done immersing yourself through all of that, I want the next one to be arcade, throw everything at the wall. It's like, yeah, bullet barrage, baby. Let's go. I mean, bullet barrage was amazing. You know, it is amazing. It's fantastic. Just go in there. It's like, yeah, I just blast dash and then unload the whole thing from my gun. That's amazing. It's awesome. It's a ton of fun, but it's a completely different experience, which is why it's good to have both. But I still am very much biased towards the world one. That doesn't mean that I can't enjoy the other one as well.
Exactly. And, it's always good to have your favorite dish, but it doesn't mean you don't like other food. And yeah, like you said, Rise introduced basically flying gun lancers. So, what more do you want, really? I still remember your Blast Dash skits, so...
I mean, it really happened. The moment I unlocked Blast, I was like, oh my god, look at Blast Dash here, Blast Dash there. It's so good. I was
and for me, Metsu Shurigeki, one of my favorite Sword and Shield.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And even the shield bash attack, where from Sunbreak, where you come forward and you have a offensive defensive ability where you just dash forward with your shield up, the
shield charge.
I love that. So in World, my most favorite thing with the sword and shield is doing when off of certain walls and pillars where you do the big plunge attack.
God. That is
the dopamine spikes in me.
That's the thing. A lot of people talk about Helmbreaker and they think people are talking about the longsword skill. It's like, no, Helmbreaker is a sword and shield skill. The longsword gets the spirit helm. Is it Helmbreaker or Helm Splitter? I forget. But I remember that they have the same name, except the longsword one has spirit in front of it.
Yeah. Yeah, they do it with style,
No, but the sword and shield is way better than the longsword. Sorry, bros.
I'm biased. I'm a sword and shield main, so you know what my answer is going to be here. But I would not want to ruffle any longsword mains. So shout out to my longsword mains. We both use swords. It's fine.
Nah,
it's fine. But no, the sword and shield is
longsword users have no power here.
Look, when I see one of those walls and I just start running up it, that's why I like fighting Nergigante so much, because in its kind of main area where you fight it, there's all those little pillars that you can run up and do, and also the last area where you're fighting Kolv Taroth and the music's blaring and there's lava coming from the ceiling and I'm in the middle guys, lure it into the middle, bring it to the middle, there's a wall here. So I need to run up the pillar. Yeah, I want to mount it again. World gave me that, and then Rise and Sunbreak gave me some of my favorite actionable abilities. But and then World gives me the plunge, and then so many memorable moments that plunge gave me. So naturally, obviously, replaying World, I'm like,
I love the hit lag on that plunge, because you're going through and you're just
it feels
going down. It's so good,
meaty. Yeah, I absolutely adore it. It's one of the most satisfying things I think you can do in Monster Hunter for me. That attack and the multi hits and especially because sword and shield is a physically small weapon, right? The fact that you're getting a kind of reach and meaty hit that normally you see your great swords, your long swords and things like that kind of pulling off. I imagine that's what dual blades uses for, when they're spinning down the monster. The same kind of thing.
What was that really big monster that you would go through and it would just take forever? I know that behemoth.
It's not Rurikhan or something.
No. There's way bigger ones. Obviously, there's Kolv Taroth. Kolv Taroth is massive because you go through and it's pretty big. And Behemoth was also pretty friggin' massive. So yeah, it's friggin' insane.
Yeah, Safi's another big one. I was always happy when you got a dual blades or an insect glaive to help get the wing kind of area. As a sword, I was I'd never get the wing breaks normally, because obviously sword and shield, I'd be
I mean, no, but for the wing breaks for Safi, if I remember, you had to bring
heavy gunners really.
Yeah,
gunners
it was gunners. Because I remember specifically asking for that. I would have the 16-player lobby, and I'd be going okay, I need some gunners in my party. We're going to go break the wings now. We're going to go do the thing. That was cool. The additional people in the lobby was also a big deal. I felt there was a bigger sense of community in World and Iceborne because of the bigger lobbies, because people would hang out in lobbies and then join in and leave depending on what they were doing and what they needed. Yeah. I thought that was cool. Do you know if the team, what was the team's overall sentiment on that? Because that was the first time that they did 16-player lobbies.
I would imagine, obviously, I wasn't here in the world
Yeah.
era, and I haven't like kind of asked about that specifically. But once again, I think they were like, kind of new platforms, renewed push. This is them bringing Monster Hunter World to the world. And I know that sounds cheesy, but I think it's a nice comparison. And they were like, let's create this kind of social event. And also, they might have already probably had the Siege stuff planned out. So they're like, we'd need this for this in the future. So I imagine they probably designed the monsters or the hunts before maybe that feature. It's purely speculative, obviously. But yeah, so stuff they plan ahead, right? So they'd be like, right, well, we're going to need this, and then obviously a nice byproduct of that was the really social side. But the fact the team added like the kind of like guild or clan kind of feature as well means they did have that social and community side at the forefront of their mind. And then obviously Rise and Sunbreak gave you the more traditional classic Monster Hunter experience of the four player lobbies that you're probably more than familiar with, well versed in. But yeah, it's nice that I enjoy the world social experience, because like when it's like when you're streaming as well, so yeah, even if they're not playing with you, just people in there arm wrestling, you get to see their fashion, they're chilling out somewhere. So yeah, it's really nice to see, and it's kind of, it does reinforce this, you're in it together.
That was one of them. That was actually one of the things that I missed in Sunbreak, was the fact that there wasn't the gathering hub. And I know that, everybody can see themselves in the city, so why do you need a gathering hub? But it just always feels nice to have that gathering hub. Like people hanging out in Celiana's gathering hub, for instance, even if you were to give players, everybody can see themselves in Celiana, which we couldn't at the time, right? Even if players could see themselves in Celiana, I would still want to have the Gathering Hub as a social space, because it just feels really cool to have a separate area. It's almost like, okay, you can go around in the city, do whatever you want, but when you're getting ready for the hunt, you go to the Gathering Hub.
Yeah, right. Yeah, suit up. Yeah.
So when I think I was even talking about before Sunbreak, I think I remember in some of my streams, I was like, they haven't shown the Gathering Hub yet. Why haven't they shown the Gathering Hub? And then turns out there wasn't the Gathering Hub in Sunbreak, and I was like, oh. Because I like the space. You could be
in that space. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I said, like, it's interesting because, yeah, you've got the kind of more community-focused experience or the more classic, intimate experience, depending on what you're feeling at the time. But no, I do like it. I mean, I'm a community manager, right? I like being around people. I do like the social side. It is nice, and mostly say I like looking at other hunters, like what are they wearing, what are they using, how are they, what do they look like, and it's always fun. Sometimes you get some really funny outfits. Sometimes you see some really cool like fashion ideas that you didn't think of, and how people pull it all together and express themselves with like trinkets and things like that. So yeah, I do like the social element. And as you said, you could be in there and you're gearing up for the hunt, and like a couple of your buddies are like sat in the hot springs and chilling out over there. So I think as well, it's to me, it also reminds me a bit like a kind of MMO guild hall. Even if they're not in your, people come around and it's a social space as well. So no, I really like those as well. And the thing is, for me, like with Rise, how I play Rise, I normally always play online. I like multiplayer. So like rather than kind of join in rooms, I'll just SOS and kind of join random hunts.
Yeah.
Whereas with World, it was quite fun to kind of join siege quests and stuff like that, and see different groups all prepping up for this like combined mission, and seeing them flying off, and then you're like, oh, we'll race them. Come on, let's see if we can get back before they do. Get one more run in before they finish off Cove. Get a bit more loot, which was always fun.
I actually hope that with Wilds, the team dives in and even improves on that squadron system that we had in Monster Hunter World, which probably most people don't even remember it, but I used to have that. I think I even had 4 or 5 of those, because I think that was a way to create multiple, because I was playing on PlayStation at the time, and you could basically have, I don't know if you remember how this worked, but you would have this squad thing, and then when you would host the squad lobby, people would be able to just instantly join. The problem was that it was limited to 50 people. So it's like,
Don't have too many friends.
Yeah. So I would like keep hosting lobbies, and I would have like all of these looking for group channels on my Discord to try and get people to do all of the different sieges and whatnot whenever they were going on, and have like Ironbreaker lobbies of people that at least some of them would know the overall strategy and could kind of like help guide everybody else along the way.
That's good.
I really hope that the team doubles down on that, but actually does one with a much more increased limit of users or whatnot, so that people can join in organically.
I'd be interested to see what the team are cooking. Anyway.
So one of the things that we touched up on is the fact that first you played Rise on Switch, and then you played it on PC, and then you played it on PS4. Had to play through the game 3 times. See, there's this nice little feature that we could potentially have called a cross save.
What is this?
What a crazy notion! No, but it's
what
like
a concept.
I know that obviously one of the biggest things that you guys have received in terms of feedback has definitely been crossplay and cross save. You've probably made a lot of posts on the official account saying, hey, we know you guys want this, but you also happen to be in an extremely unique position in Capcom right now, because you're also the community manager of Exoprimal, and that game is the first one that used Capcom ID. But it wasn't like super well implemented in the beginning, I feel like, right? Because you had the Capcom ID and you could do crossplay, but it was only random. It was only through matchmaking. So how has the system been evolving since then?
Well, yeah, so obviously in Exoprimal, it was like the first kind of iteration of it where you could match up and face against other platforms, but you couldn't party up. However, in the latest update, though, with the custom mode, you can now
you figured it out.
And all jump in. Yeah, so you can now jump in, and basically the team are like, right, there's all this cool content that we've just added with TU4, like with Time Loop Rebellion, which is like a 10-player mode. So we're like, we want to make it easier so you can play with 10 of your friends if you want to. So they implemented the custom lobbies, and because of that, it allowed them to work in the kind of true crossplay experience where you can team up with your buddies. And then obviously that evolved with Street Fighter. So Street Fighter 6 kind of has that kind of crossplay experience that, you kind of see where I want to play with my friends. I want to fight up people on other platforms no matter what they are. So Street Fighter kind of then gave you that kind of full crossplay experience out of the gate, which was cool to see, which is once again powered by the Capcom ID.
I don't really play Street Fighter. I don't really do fighters all that much, but like,
I'm terrible at fighting games.
Does it have like does it have its own friend list, or what's the deal with that technology?
I'm not familiar. I've not played Street Fighter 6 outside of getting beaten in the office when we play it. But I just know that you can. There's no like restrictions around who you play with and when on what platform if you've got crossplay enabled.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's like a direct invite via Capcom ID or a lobby ID, because say I've just not played a ton of.
So on Exoprimal, it's custom lobbies, kind of the same way that you would have in Monster Hunter, where you'd have like that code that you give out.
Yeah,
to people,
and
right?
you give out the code, and then anyone can jump in by typing that code in.
Okay, but what is the possibility, do you think, of having some of these features at least maybe be present in Wilds? Because I would imagine that the team's heard a lot of feedback on this stuff.
Honestly, no idea. But we'll be kicking off more Wilds goodness in summer in that window. So who knows what we'll find out and when. Once summer arrives.
Yeah, but you can confirm that there's been a lot of feedback, right, on that?
I mean, in regards to community feedback, we've seen that something a lot of people have asked for, because that's why we put out the surveys, we do tweets and posts, because we want to know what you want. And I know in the survey, stuff like crossplay, cross save are in those surveys, and when they're not even explicitly in there, that's what people put in there. Like,
they put in the other sections.
Yeah, because
like crossplay and cross save.
It's important. And you know what? I get it. And everyone kind of gets it, that you want to play with your buddies, and your buddies might be on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever. But you just want to play with your friends, kind of thing. And that's why people are so passionate about feeding it back. And credit to people, when they're feeding it back, some people just go, oh, I'd love crossplay. Some people are like, we need crossplay. And we get it, because they're passionate and they care. And people haven't been like rude about it. They've not been like, bashing down the gates, which is we do appreciate it because it is Joe and I and the regional community managers that go through all of that and collate it and feed it back. And then obviously with the questionnaires, it's the teams in Japan go through them and collate them as well. So, it's great to see passion, and honestly, just a little thank you to everyone that isn't rude because it is humans that go through them.
Yeah, it's the internet after all, but luckily I feel like overall the community's pretty positive, even though sometimes I see people saying, "Oh, the months." It's the weirdest thing, whether it's from the Souls community or the Monster Hunter community. I always hear somebody come in and say, "Oh, this is the most toxic community ever," and I was like, "No, I don't agree with you. No, I'm sorry, I completely disagree. I think that there's bad apples in every community.
Yeah, ultimately, it's you can't control who will join your community, and then it's the community themselves normally kind of self-exercise, if that makes sense, and things like that. And the Monster Hunter community, I got into Monster Hunter, and I know we've had this discussion before, so I won't linger on it. I got into Monster Hunter and was able to attach myself and learn it because of the community, because of the creators, because of the people that were running forums back in the day, the wikis, and people wanting to share. And the biggest thing about Monster Hunter, right, which I think is a great way of kind of making it stand out from maybe some other communities and things like that, is some people in other communities are really protective and gatekeepy over their playstyle, their favorite weapons, their class. Whereas in Monster Hunter, it's the opposite. They will aggressively pursue you to play their favorite weapon. They'll be like, "Why aren't you playing the sword and shield?
Exactly.
Why aren't you playing the long sword? What do you mean you've never felt the warm embrace of a gun lance?"
Exactly.
So we want you to play what we like, and we encourage you to be like, "Oh, you're new to the game. You need to play. Come play my weapon. Here's some tips. Go check out some YouTube videos. Go check out a streamer." It's that energy of, "Oh, you get over here. You're going to hang out with me." And then, no, they're going to be a hammer main. Come with me. And then you got a bow gunner sat at the back like, out of the way. We need to teach you the way of rage. So it's that kind of experience that I personally had many moons ago, and I still see today. I go on the subreddits. I'm always like lurking around the subreddits and things, reading what's going on, and I still see it to this day. I'm new. I just picked up Rise in the Sale, a World in the Sale. I don't know what to do. And you got 10 different flares with different weapons. Step on over here. And that's what I love about the community. And I think that's such a quintessentially Monster Hunter thing.
I think it 100% is. I think that there's way more positivity than negativity in the community. I just think that human perception tends to veer more towards the negativity because of our survival instincts, and therefore that is the perception that kind of sticks in people's minds. But I think overall there's way more positivity around the Monster Hunter community than negativity, even if there is some negative interactions from time to time.
Exactly. I mean, it would be foolish to deny that a gaming community doesn't have elements that are toxic or negative, but I think it's managed quite well here, because it's like with any game, especially as it picks up momentum, you get a much wider audience, and folks come in that might be from outside of gaming circles or kind of the circles that were originally part of that community, and it's all part of the teething. Some people will come over and chill out, other people will move on, but I think the core foundation of the Monster Hunter community as a whole, and I know it's there's different factors to it and different sub factions, even though they're not warring, but you know what I mean, different groups that don't interact. The overall
I don't deal with longsword people. I don't know.
Oh, they'll deal with you. They'll be tripping you up. I mean, no. Don't worry, they'll find you.
It's actually funny because, unfortunately, because of nowadays with the lockdowns and whatnot, I feel like so society as a whole has lost a little bit of its social skills. So a lot of times people get upset when I make fun of the longsword. They don't understand that I'm just joking and I don't actually care.
Affectionate. It's affectionate. I people still call sword and shield a support weapon, and I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, I mean,
let me support you.
I saw, I think there was a good meme on the subreddit. It's I support killing the monster. So I loved all the tongue-in-cheek weapon jokes and stuff like that as well.
It's fun.
I like it. Times. I like it when someone gently ribs sword and shield, because it shows they're thinking about it. The best weapon.
So obviously we can't talk much more about cross-save and crossplay. We'll be hearing more about that later. But I think one of the things that we can talk about is exclusivity, because naturally we've had with World's release, it was first on PlayStation and Xbox, and then eventually it came to PC. And Rise had the staggered release, which was staggered across 3 platforms, which I would argue is probably one of the reasons why I feel like Rise could have sold way more, but because it took so long to get to these other platforms, it was, eventually the hype dies down a little bit and less people buy into it. I feel like Wilds, there's not going to be anything like that. There's not going to be staggered releases at all, right? Everything's going to be day and date on all platforms. I think that's been confirmed, no?
Whilst I can't comment on like specifics around that kind of thing, I mean, I think when you look at Rise, obviously when it was announced for Switch. It was like Nintendo Switch title. When we've announced Monster Hunter Wilds, obviously on the tweet, it's PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and PC Steam. So it's
coming on the S as well. Damn.
So they're the platforms that we've announced that the game is coming to. We've not revealed anything around specifics around dates or anything like that. Beyond obviously 2025.
Yeah.
But we've stated our intention that these are the platforms the game is coming to. So I guess watch this space.
in the past, I believe that Capcom has also mentioned something about how like we're focusing a lot more on the PC platform because it always felt like it was a bit of an afterthought in a lot of the games, right? There was something around that.
From the very, very top of Capcom, PC is such a big focus for us. And that's not coming at the expense of console handheld. This is something that we want to give more love to, and we want to bring our focus and appreciation of PC up, which is what we're doing, because the PC community really support our games and really get behind our titles, to say the least. And you can see that we spend a lot of time with community engagement on Steam now. So we obviously, from Monster Hunter, Joe and I work on a lot of community blogs on Rise and World. Also, so did a team in Japan. They work on the posts, some extra posts on there. We do Steam streams as well to kind of engage with the community around key events, and so people can kind of get to see the community managers. PC is a big deal for us. We want the PC community to feel appreciated and engaged with. And I think Steam as well is such a fantastic storefront to engage with the community on. I have a ton of fun doing the Steam blogs with Joe.
Yeah.
But no, Steam, we want to give Steam and PC players as a whole, because there's a lot more storefronts than Steam, but Steam is obviously you probably know about Steam, PC, is getting a lot of love from Capcom and a lot of attention, because we want to show that.
It's funny because now you see more companies embracing PC a little bit more, whereas it feels like a couple of years ago was more like, no, consoles is where everything's at. We're gonna make sure everything works on consoles, then we'll think about PC. So it's been interesting that I feel like Capcom kind of led the charge a little bit in recent years in terms of that stuff.
Yeah, I said, what's great is the kind of, I mean, the team, were always keen on Steam, but the directive coming from the very top of, hey, we need to show PC some more love. Let's do that. And then it's reflected in kind of like the games themselves, the community approach, the freedom of the community managers to engage with the PC community directly and have a much more kind of relaxed tone. Because if you do see like the Return to World blog posts or the Rise posts, they let us have that kind of chill approach and be like, hey, we're sharing this, or here's some cool news from the team, here's another update from director Suzuki, or when we were doing like Sunbreak,
or just even this, just like, just let our community manager go on podcasts and whatnot. Not everybody does that.
Your community's probably got a massive PC segment. You probably got a good mix of console and PC, but I imagine a lot of PC gamers, part of the Ironbreakers, so
There's both. There's all kinds in Ironbreakers. There's Switch teams. There's PlayStation teams and PC teams. I think there's probably not as much Xbox because I haven't done as much Xbox coverage. But I can't cover everything. I'm one guy. I'm just one guy.
No, why not? But
and cover all the things.
And the good thing is this extra PC focus and love isn't coming at the expense of anyone else.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you look at it on the community side, like recently the Capcom Europe community team has massively expanded. So we now have
I've been seeing like there's a Spanish new community manager, and there was a French not so long ago, I think.
Yeah.
Everybody started memeing on him with Je suis monté.
Yeah. He was like, "What's this?" I was like, "Welcome." It's great. So we've got a new French community manager, German community manager, Italian community manager, Spanish community manager, community manager for the Middle East.
Where's the Portuguese community manager? What happened there?
But, so you know what, it's awesome to see, and especially as you mentioned, the French and German community managers are Monster Hunter community managers as well, like specifically Monster Hunter community managers. So it's honestly fantastic to see Capcom be like, we wanted to give our not just the PC community as well, but more of our global community.
It's actually
that direct attention.
It's actually interesting to see Capcom basically hiring a bunch of folks. Considering what's been happening in the industry, you've been seeing layoffs left, right, and center. And I'm not kidding. Ahead of this podcast, I was actually like Googling, okay, let's see if they've actually fired then a round of layoffs recently. So I'm like, Capcom layoffs, and most of the articles that came up, I'm not joking. People can go Google this right now. Just go Google Capcom layoffs, and most of unless you guys are planning on doing a layoff round the next week, I hope not. This will age very poorly.
Well, it's been fun. Yeah.
This will age very poorly if that's the case. But like, I was looking it up, and interestingly enough, that most of the articles would actually say, amidst industry layoffs, Capcom is raising salaries. I was like, wait, what? I wasn't even aware of this.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the state of a lot of the industry is crushing, really. Yeah, both when you see it happen to people. Yeah, we could do a whole thing on that, and it's absolutely gutting, and people that it's affecting don't deserve it. It's very unfair. So especially even more so when it impacts people you are connected to in any way, whether even that's just seeing them on Twitter. I'll keep buried, but it's awful, and I really feel for them, and I wish them the best and a quick rebound, hopefully, into a better and nicer career in the industry. When it comes to Capcom, it's interesting, and when we were building the community team up again, something we wanted to reassure is Capcom doesn't expand much in regards to staff, and there isn't a ton of us. We all are very passionate about what we do, and we work hard and play harder, kind of thing. But we're not big teams. Like I am, until very recently, I was the only kind of like main focused European community manager for Monster Hunter. And I also work on Exoprimal and the Ace Attorney series. Whereas elsewhere you might have multiple community managers per region, per title. So Capcom doesn't have a ton of staff as it is. So, you've got that. And when we do grow, it's very calculated. It's very with purposeful. They think long term. It's not, we need someone for a couple of months to, cover this. So the Capcom grows its staff slowly and meaningfully, which gives you that extra security. You have a lot of responsibility, which is actually awesome. I really like the responsibility because you have ownership of what you're doing. It cuts down on the bureaucracy. If you're like, we should do this post, me and Joe meet up and we're like, hey, let's do this. It's not like then there's layers and layers and layers and then like a council to decide on a tweet kind of thing. So we are small teams. When we grow, it's very like, this is meaningful long-term growth we want to do. We want to build we've now, for example, looking at Spanish, Italian and Middle Eastern community manager. That's because we're committing to those regions and we want to give those communities a voice, and we're planning ahead to grow there and, engage with these communities more. And that's what I like, because you feel as staff respected and appreciated, because it's not just like, we're going to double everything and, every 6 months kind of thing. You kind of have faith in the team and the decisions because they're being done for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And not to make a quick buck. kind of thing.
Yeah, but that's been good to see.
Touch wood.
Yeah. But so another thing that I have here is about some of the stuff that was added with Rise that was actually kind of unique to Rise and Sunbreak. Two of the things were followers and the Palamutes. That I'm actually curious as to how was, if you've ever gotten to speak with the team about that, how was their overall reception to how the community reacted to it? Because I feel like a lot of people really enjoyed the Palamutes, and a lot of people are like, oh my god, Followers is the best thing ever. Because Followers was also...
love Followers.
I think Followers was also expanded upon maybe beyond the initial project, because like initially it felt like you have these quests for Followers, but then the team just went like, let's just put Followers everywhere. It almost felt like that wasn't really planned. That was just something that they were like, oh, let's just do this. People like it.
Yeah, the team are like, they do, and it's not just lip service. They do love what the community is saying, and say when they're not looking at our feedback, Followers were received so well, and a lot of people were saying, I would love to bring them out more. And, I want to use them here. And also, I think if you're playing solo, sometimes it's nice to have a bit of company. And when it's in world as well, so you got the banter and the emote interactions. So, it wasn't a half measure. The team really were like, this is a cool feature. And I personally love the Followers. When I'm like commuting to work on the train and I can't play online, got some AI buddies with me. So yeah, and it was, the team were watching the feedback and people were like, we want more of this. And it was in their capacity to do it. So, the team did. And I love the follower system, and I'm so glad it went down well as well, and that the team's kind of idea around that did. And once again, it's a purely optional thing, and once again, it's something that can shift the difficulty slightly without having a difficulty option. Yeah. So you as a player, and you're not penalized for having them. There's no like drawback. They can't fail the quest for you. You don't have less rewards. It's like, would you like this? And it's still challenging because they can't carry you. They do less damage than a player would. But they will help you, but they won't backpack you. Which I think is a great way of addressing the difficulty debates you see and stuff like that, without taking away from like the core identity of the game. And then with the Palamutes as well, it's always nice to get some more furry friends. Like, I am equally a dog and cat person, even though I have a cat at the moment. And it was nice to see because, they're much more... I personally am a Palico person. I like the abilities they have. I find that much more useful for my playstyle. But then you've got other people who are attaching like status weapons to their Palamute, elemental weapons, and because they're much more aggressive and deep damage focused.
Yeah, I remember people going around with the chain dogs, and they would have like double dogs with chains, and that would destroy everything. I was like, damn. I personally really like having two Palicos because I would give them flashbangs and bombs, and it was hilarious. Just the shenanigans that would happen.
Yeah, like for me, like the gathering. I mean, I'm a stickler for gathering Palicos. Give me extra items. Give me more monster parts. You never know when a mantle's gonna drop in your mailbox.
The most selfish of Palicos. Yeah, I see how. It is.
They do healing bubbles now and again, and sometimes there's an endemic life barrage. What are you talking about? Slander.
No, it was good. It was fun times. So one of the biggest things that was put in Rise that I really hope makes a return, I don't know how the team is looking at that one, was switch skills, because I feel like it made the game feel fresher along the way, because it's not just I have this one moveset and I begin with this moveset and it's the same moveset by the end, even though I understand, by the way, before people start screaming at me, I understand that there's a lot of people that they prefer it that way. They prefer like, no, I want to have access to my full moves from the get-go, and that's that. So there's like a bit of a balancing act there, but I really like the switch skills. What was the overall vibe from the team with the switch skills?
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, we really expanded upon that with
Sunbreak.
Add in the second scroll, add in more moves into it, add in armor skills that directly resonated with switching between your sets of skills. So, they were received fantastically in Rise and Sunbreak. And what I like to see as well is you would see a weapon user, but they could be, if I saw another sword and shield user, they could have an entirely different set of moves to me. Like, not entirely, but, majority, like, and their playstyle could be very different to me on top of normal playstyles where, so I loved the variety in different having different weapon users who played entirely different.
I can tell you that in the Gunlands, you could literally change the entirety of your playstyle with switch skills. Like, it was just straight up a different. So, for instance, say you're playing wide shelling with guard reload, it is entirely different from playing normal shelling with quick reload. Because, normal shelling, quick reload, you're going like, okay, quick reload, slam, burst. Whereas guard reload wide was like shell, block, shell, block. Yep. And that was, it's like a different weapon almost.
Mm-hmm. It's great. I loved it. And, then I found what my favorite combination was. And I had like my red scroll was like my offensive counter scroll. And then my blue scroll was utility. Because obviously they buffed the destroyer oil to give you sharpness back.
Yep.
So I loved being able to change on the fly, and then when you did change your scroll, you could do an evasive maneuver as well. So you weren't penalized for utilizing that; you were kind of rewarded. And also what you could totally ignore it as well. You could do, this is my one setup. Or you could fully lean all the way in and have armor skills and swap in all the time. So the team gave you a choice as well, and whichever one you chose was totally fine. Which I liked as well. It wasn't like, oh, you haven't swapped your scroll recently. You could do either. Which I really liked, having that freedom of choice.
One of the things that we had during Rise and Sunbreak, in contrast to some of the stuff that happened early in World, and I feel like you've probably gotten a lot of feedback from the community. You've definitely gotten feedback from me. Was some of the microtransaction choices that happened with Rise and Sunbreak, right? Whereas we saw a lot more microtransactions that is usual in terms of cosmetics and stuff. That's not to say that there wasn't cool cosmetic stuff in the game. That's one of the things that I always bring up. It's like, there's a balancing act here and whatnot, but in a lot of ways, I feel, and the vibe that I got from the overall community is that they also felt that the threshold of cosmetic microtransactions was a little bit more aggressive in Rise and Sunbreak. And I know that you've probably received feedback from the community in regards to that, no?
Yeah, no, I say that, it's all about kind of striking a balance, and kind of looking at, what will people like, what they won't. And, obviously a lot of these, because obviously when the game launches, there was some cosmetic DLC in the store, and a lot of it would come out alongside title updates as well to kind of support the game. You know the drill. That this content is developed after the game's launch.
Yeah,
these extra cosmetics.
By the way, I'm not against microtransactions.
Oh yeah, I know.
As a matter of fact, with the BGMs that you guys have added from like the older games, I bought a bunch of those. I was like, give me that.
I bought the Malzeno Rock cover. So that's when I'm streaming on Switch.
I got
that's what I've got.
I got the one from the what was it, the Narwa rock version or whatever it was.
Oh,
there was a rock version. I was like, this one's badass.
It's got the vocalist on it, right?
Yeah. It's also got the vocalist version on it and whatnot. And then I got obviously Poke Village and Moga Village, and I was like, oh, this is so good. Moga Village in particularly just sounds fantastic in Elgato. So yeah, I'm not against it, but like obviously there was definitely, and I feel like the community as a whole felt a much more aggressive shift in terms of the microtransactions in Rise and Sunbreak. I'm just wondering if you've had discussions with the team and if you can talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to sentiment, any sentiment, like no topic is off barred, or and we're encouraged to share everything that we see. So, and the team are always receptive to what we share. They're like, oh, why did you share that? It's not like that at all. It's like, thank you for sharing this. Thank you for sharing that. And obviously, when we look at feedback from the community, it's on a global scale. So obviously, Joe and I focus on Pan-Western, and then you've got the team in Japan that look around that area, and then we compare notes. And yeah, it's always interesting because, microtransactions are a sensitive subject across the whole industry.
Yes.
And, with Monster Hunter, these cosmetics are made, I guess 99.9% after launch. And they come out around the kind of key title updates. And it is the familiar line, but it does support the extra work that's going into the game post-launch. Because once again, while some of the title updates might be planned before the game launches, the work on them happens by and large once the game has gone gold after launch. And you've got this team that's continually working on this game that doesn't have a subscription, doesn't charge you for title updates or anything like that. So it is an extra revenue stream to kind of support the ongoing development. And, because obviously the game's still selling, but the extra revenue's good, and it tends to be optional stuff that is a different style to what you can get in game. Like not including the event quest stuff, which can be different to the style. So, like you've got like the plushie weapons, and I know the plushie weapons in particular were very kind of like divisive in the Western community because some people love them.
For me, it was the lost code that was a little bit more divisive. Because if you remember, because here's the thing, right? A lot of people think that, Rurikhan's a fanboy of Monster Hunter. You know better than anyone. The second I don't like something,
You're the first that will pull us up on something. Yeah, which is right.
I'll just go straight up to Jonno. I'm like, I didn't like this at all. I think that this was completely wrong. I shouldn't have done this. Like, you can confirm this because, I will straight up give it to you exactly like I feel, and that's exactly the way that it goes. And I've never been told, hey, can you not slam us for this? I've never once been approached like that, despite what a lot of people might think. I think the problem is I still really like video games, and there's a lot of people in the gaming industry that don't like video games anymore. But I still like them, so I'm still going to be very positive about stuff like Monster Hunter because I still like the game. But, there's obviously things that I didn't like. Like, I gave you a lot of feedback on the Lost Code weapons and the fluffy weapons, and the main reasoning with, I don't think the fluffy weapons I was even that against. I don't think
people really, I think, it
but
was definitely
I know
the Lost
that people, a lot of people were upset about the fluffy weapons because they were very unique. But to me, it's like, there's a fluffy bear hammer that you can get in the game, which is somewhat comparable. The biggest thing to me is when you get something where there's nothing comparable in game, and the unique sheathing animations of Lost Code. That was where I was like, it's not even the skins of the weapons, it's the sheathing animations that they're so different from anything else that's in the game that I was like, to me it's all about having something that is comparable. And which is why, for instance, you guys had all of those different armor sets that you released, and I'm like, there's comparably even better looking armor sets in the game. This doesn't bother me at all. But that was like kind of the back and forth that I had with some of those. But I know that the overall sentiment of people was like, hey, with World, we got a lot of weapon skins on the title updates. And with Rise, we didn't get that many weapon skills with the title updates. That especially I don't know if you remember that quest with the Barioth. It had like the Guild Palace weapons. People love that stuff. And the Devil May Cry sword. That was another one. People were like, oh, this is awesome. So there was a
Devil May Cry.
Exactly. There was a lot of really cool stuff like that in World, and in Rise there was less of that, and a lot of it felt moved over to the store. Again, there was still a lot of DLC suits and whatnot, and some collaborations, but there was definitely a shift. That was the point that I'm coming at it from.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because obviously one of the community criticisms for Rise was they wanted more reward in event quests. They felt that event quests weren't necessarily as rewarding as Wild and Iceborne. And I think Sunbreak did a great job at addressing that. But a lot of those rewards were armor. They weren't like weapon skins. And like some of my favorite pieces of armor, cosmetic wise, come from event quests. Like the Qurious crown. Incredible.
That's the one that's got like the flames and stuff.
It's like it's like a little like demon. And you can change the color of like, so it has like a little glowing effect. Like one of my favorite pieces of gear, and it looks so badass, and it looks very Malzeno, and that's from an event quest. And the team were very conscious to make these event quests rewarding, whether it's like emotes, poses, cosmetic armor, and then with each title update as well. Obviously, I know the armor's attached to the monsters and the weapons and stuff, but that's extra free content with the monsters, the weapons, the armor. And then we ended up getting, thanks to the support and the success of the game, we ended up getting the Primordial Malzeno update as well.
Yeah.
Which came later on in the schedule. That wasn't something that was always planned. It was like, the game's done really well. People are still playing it. People are loving it. People are supporting us. Still buying it in the sale.
Let's make more content.
Let's do another update. Let's put a cherry. We've had a Matsu. Because Amatsu could have happily wrapped up everything. It could have been like, there you go, Rise is wrapped up. You've got your conclusion in Sunbreak. But the team were like, let's do this. And Primordial Malzeno is top 3 monster for me, straight out the bat.
Primordial Malzeno is awesome. Yeah.
It's extra, free. That was a free part, obviously. And tile updates. I think Monster Hunter, to toot our own horn a bit, I don't know many other games that have that kind of content that's free, and you're not like asked to pay for DLC for it and stuff. It's this is going to come, and it's quite regular, and we'd like to make a big shout about it and kind of share it with the community. But yeah, I think kind of going back to the question, it's some people felt a bit disappointed with some of the rewards what we saw from the Rise event quest. Sunbreak addressed that, but when you start addressing it, it takes time for it to sink in, and it's quite long form because you have to look back and be like, okay, now we have all these quests. So when we're also like, oh, here's also some optional paid DLC, I can see why some people would be rubbed up the wrong way, kind of looking at it, and especially because the team, whether it's in-game content or paid DLC, they're all really quality. Sorry, my voice is going there. I recovered from COVID a week or two ago, so I'm healing now. So that's why I'm a bit raspy.
And we've been going at it for over an hour and a half.
So, so yeah, it's also testament that it is good stuff. Like I bought the Zenoga Sword and Shield plushie, for example. I don't get free codes for those DLCs. I buy them myself because I genuinely want them. It's not me doing a sneaky on stream like, oh wow, look at this new Sword and Shield that it's me genuinely. I wanted it, so I paid a couple of quid for it, and I want to use it. So on that side, it's not nefarious.
But I'm just hoping that the team got that feedback for Wilds, so that in Wilds again, I think you can have microtransactions and all of this stuff. But obviously, I feel like a large part of the community would want to also get more weapon skins and stuff like that from event rewards, and to have it feel a little bit better. The way that it was in World, I feel like was a decent balance.
I get you, because in World, in Iceborne, if you saw someone with a certain trinket, there's a good chance. I mean, you obviously could buy trinkets, but they were very different to what you could earn from beating certain monsters or grinding out the guiding lands. And also, so for me, like, I always thought it was cool when I saw someone wielding a certain armor set or a weapon or a trinket, and you're like, ooh, they've clearly done some spicy content.
Yeah, exactly. Like we had the Dragoon armor from the Extreme Off. That was like. That was massive.
That was prestigious.
You're like, what he's been through. He's done Extreme Off and fooling around.
which was great. And I remember that gave me the drive to push through and finally beat Extreme Off, so I could get the layered gear as well.
That was good stuff. Yeah.
And so it's always cool to see, and mixing. It's a balancing act in a nutshell of giving the community what they want and offering some optional stuff that doesn't go against the grain or rub people up the wrong way.
Yep. Well, let's hope that the team does a little bit better than what ended up happening with Sunbreak in terms of like some of the microtransaction weapon skins and whatnot. At least I hope that's kind of like my feedback. But so I have a lot of questions here from the community still to go through. Although I have to say that one of the things that everybody's brought up was like, hey, look, Capcom keeps remastering Resident Evil. When can we have our remasters? But I know that there's not going to be an answer there. I'm just like, Jonno, I want Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate please. And I know that a lot of people want 3 Ultimate. They want like the HD collection, which is going to get announced in summer, exclusive here. Jonno's like, shut the hell up, I'll kill you.
I mean, we have done a like a remaster. We've got Monster Hunter Stories coming out.
Oh yeah, we have
no
Monster
plug
Hunter
on that.
Stories.
and that's coming to platforms that hasn't come to before, and the team of graphically it looks great. It's got voice acting, and it's going to include the previously Japan exclusive stuff as well.
The Japan DLC, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you like Rajang, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, but like there's no news in terms of like potential remasters or anything like that. I'd be curious to know what is the overall sentiment on the team on that, because it feels like we never really get remasters from Monster Hunter. I think the closest thing we've gotten to a traditional Monster Hunter thing was when they released GU on Switch.
I I mean, I think, when you see the team get interviewed, they're always looking forward. It's always, where can we take Monster Hunter next? What is the next step for Monster Hunter? What's the next generation? Yeah, so I think, based upon what I've seen in interviews and things, the team just keep looking forward. They're proud of what they've created, and not to say other teams aren't, you know what I mean? Like, they're like, yes, we've done this. What's next? And it's the same with Resi when they go back and they revisit, like the Resi 2 remake was what really, like, the difference in that. And obviously more recently, the Resi 4 remake.
It's completely different.
They reinvent the game and take it to another level. Whereas the Monster Hunter team, they do that by they go forward and then they make the next game. You go from Generations Ultimate to World, and then with Rise and Sunbreak, they kind of took a step to the side and like, what if we mixed a modern with the classic? And they created obviously the kind of portable, initially focused title, and then obviously now we're going forward with Wilds in 2025, and you've seen the kind of announced trailer, and people are extrapolating from that, and with more news is coming in summer, so you can see the team are always looking forward and looking at what is next for Monster Hunter. What can we do that's different for Monster Hunter?
Yeah, it's just, I feel like as a bit of feedback for the team, there's a lot of people that feel like, well, this game's only really available on 3DS, and the 3DS store is now closed down. So I don't even know if people can buy Monster Hunter for Ultimate unless they go to like a thrift store or eBay or something like that, get like a secondhand copy. So I feel like that's the overall sentiment in the community. It's like, hey, we just really would like to see these preserved in a modern platform somehow. But, I also understand wanting to move forward. I think it makes sense. But, I just wanted to point out that out of a lot of questions, like this was probably 20 or 30 questions that people
I mean, it's also like, it's credit to the team and, showing their work, and it's going to sound, but the video games can be timeless. And those experiences they offer.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. And also a lot of it are people coming in who joined us with World or Rise, and they enjoy it, and they've got into Monster Hunter, and they want to learn the history and play the history that they hear about. So no, I totally get it. And, it's always nice. We're never frustrated when we get these requests and stuff like that, because it shows people care. And I'm sure, the team are artists, are ultimately the developers, and they probably appreciate. It's like, I know the team that works, because there were members on the Sunbreak team that worked on Frontier, and they loved hearing people talking about Frontier, and especially when Espinas was revealed, they were so pleased. They're like, "Oh, people knew about our work in the West for Frontier. People like this, like, as in, like, they really like it." Like the team, because there's members of the team that worked on all these old titles that are working on the current titles, and it's like, they really appreciate it, and they care, and they do like those comments because it means you like it and you're interested. Even if there's no news coming out or anything like that about, what people want and stuff or have been requesting, the team do like it. It's never like they're still going on about it, because it shows that work is still appreciated and wanted.
One of the most interesting things that I saw as feedbacks during the World Days even was, I would have a couple of people that would say, "Oh man, I started with Monster Hunter World, had a blast, and then I went back and I played GU because you guys released GU after World." And they're like, "I actually like GU even more." I was really surprised. There were a ton of people that were like, "No, I like GU even more than World," even though they started with World and all of the quality of life that World brought. But they were just like, man, there's just still something to the old school version of Monster Hunter, so to speak.
It's because it's different. Like what I say, it's the Monster Hunter DNA is there in every title, but each title is so different. And like we said at the start of the chat, I can spend dozens of hours playing Rise and then go to World and have zero fatigue of, like, because it's a different experience. The DNA is there, but it's a totally different experience. And it's the same with For You, Generations, like it's a different game, but your skills carry over. So yeah, I get that.
So I have a question here from Sensoto Andrea 4063. This is directly for you. How did he become a community manager for Monster Hunter? Does he have any tips to give someone who'd like to become a community manager for a game? And also, as a community manager, is he given sneak peeks of future stuff, like unannounced things, or is he told about new things last minute when asked to communicate about them to the community?
So the first part, the easier part of the question,
Yeah.
It's very interesting. So there is no vocational way to become a community manager. Every community manager has a different path into the role. So first and foremost, don't worry. There isn't you have to do this to get this role. Every community manager I know, we got into the industry through different paths. You don't need a degree. You can have one. You don't need one. Stuff like that. So your education ultimately isn't that important in my experience. And I have a degree, so it's not me kind of going, it's irrelevant really. Some interviews, some places might have, you needed this. Nah, apply anyway. Because ultimately, what those that matter care about is who you are as a person and your experience and what you bring to the table. Because you don't learn community management at school, at college, at university. I mean, you can. There are marketing degrees and marketing courses, so But the art of community management is more than just your education, although education can help. So yeah, first of all, that's like a neutral one. You don't need one or the other. Building up kind of experience. So for me personally, I was technically doing community management before I realized it. So my path in was very random. It was via actually the Battlefield community and being involved very heavily in Battlefield 3 and 4 community, particularly in the UK, which is where I kind of first got involved in kind of managing a community and kind of being involved in that side of things. And then off the back of that, I used it to apply to my first role in the industry, and I got that. So, but this day and age, I mean, a lot of the time, do you have like casual experience? Are you involved in a Discord server? Are you involved in Reddit? Do you manage a social media account? Do you have your own social media accounts? Are you a content creator that does that? Because content creators community manage all the time. They're fantastic at marketers. That's what they do. So like, so it's when we've been hiring because we've got a mix of like more fresh community managers and more experienced community managers, and it's just get used to some photo editing, basic photo editing, and being able, can you clip up videos and chuck an age rating on them, snip them up and stuff like that, basic kind of things that allow you to run a social media account. And a big part of it as well is you're going to be you're going to be writing a lot. So are you a creative writer? Do you like to write things down? How do you kind of approach things?
If you were to judge from socks, it's all about how's your knowledge of memes? Can you meme?
Yeah.
How's your knowledge of puns?
That is a huge part of it. Being aware of internet culture, being aware of current
memes
trends
and puns,
and cultural things. Yeah, massively. Like that is a big part of it.
Like, do you remember Socks's post about the greatest Jagras?
Which one was it?
Oh Lord, he coming.
Yeah, exactly, right?
That's the tweet. Oh Lord, he coming.
Yeah, and like the art of that is knowing when to be serious and when to be silly and have some fun,
exactly.
Right? And so like when I look at candidates as well, because I'm lucky enough to be involved in some of that on the hiring side, is what do they bring to the table? Have they done their research on the game? On the company? Yeah, what are they going to do? Have they gone, I've noticed you have a gap here, I would come in and do this? But it's basically build up your social media skills, kind of an awareness, have very basic editing. Like, I'm talking super basic. Can you resize an image? Can you crop a video or snip a video and put a PNG over it? Will be enough to kind of carry you. Every CM role is different. Every company has a different idea of what your duties and responsibilities will be. Are you okay being on camera and things like that? And also the biggest thing is, you need to be someone that's open-minded and welcoming, and you don't exclude people. Gaming is a fantastic thing because it brings everyone together. I think it can be a massive, great unifier. I know there's a lot of toxic elements to gaming, but I also see it as a great unifier, bringing people together. And you need to be someone that is about that, and you foster those kind of communities and gates open, come in. But yeah, there's no one way. See what you will bring to that company or that particular game, and it is tricky to break in. It's not easy. So if you're not successful the first few times, do not let that put you off. And if you see something on a application that's like, it needs 5 years experience or you must have a degree, no, apply anyway, because the worst they'll say is no. But there's a chance they'll look at your CV and go, And when you do your CV and your cover letter, apply it to the role. Like, you'd be surprised how many people apply for a video game role and don't put they like video games on a cover letter. and it's like, because part of it's, we want to know you understand, you care about it, because video games are fun, right? And it's hard work, but it's fun. And tell us, we're all massive nerds. We want to know. We want to know too. But yeah, that's kind of it in a roundabout way. Obviously, when it comes to working within a company and the secret sauce, obviously I'd be tread very carefully.
Uh-oh.
But we work on plans in advance, for community plans and how we're going to engage with the community and market and promote certain things. So obviously to do that.
Yeah, well, let me give you some added context to that one, because I've spoken to one of the highest people in terms of marketing and publishing stuff from Nintendo in Portugal.
Oh wow!
And basically he told me that they learned about the Nintendo Switch a couple of hours before it was announced.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously
I was like, damn. All right.
I imagine that is like the most ultimate level of that is like super duper mega turbo secret.
Exactly.
But yeah, sometimes it's a need to know basis. Sometimes obviously it's well in advance to allow you to do your job and to serve the community in the best possible way. Yeah. And sometimes it is nice to not know stuff. Not that it's a common occurrence until sure, because it protects you as well.
Yeah.
So if something does get out, you can't be in the spotlight, or you can't be under suspicion, and also ignorance is bliss. But yeah, no. So here, obviously, we want to give our communities the best possible service and engagement. So read into that as you will.
So we have one here from I'm not sure how to read this one. Pyro, maybe. He says thoughts on having negative armor skills added like in older games.
Oh gosh, negative armor. That took me back. Oh my goodness, my gray hairs.
Don't know about the negative armor skills.
Oh man, I remember trying to wrap my head around that when I was getting into Monster Hunter. You know what? I personally don't miss them. But I think they're an interesting mechanic of balance. Is like how much do you commit to this? How much does the skill mean to you? How much will you pay for this, having this skill? And I think it's an interesting balance mechanic, and it leans into the strengths and weaknesses. So it's because I like to power myself up, which is why I don't personally miss it. But I think it's a really interesting mechanic to work your way around and min-max in your set.
I think one of the things that I would like to see is actually having less skills. Like I feel with Rise and Sunbreak, you have like 7 sheets of fully decked out skills, and I was like, that's maybe a bit much. In the older games, if you were able to get 5 skills, you'd be like, damn, this is the best set in the world. I get 5 skills.
Yeah, check this out.
So it's like I liked having less skills, because in a way it meant that those skills that you did get were way more meaningful. Whereas nowadays, almost everybody has 7 attack boost, 7 crit boost, 3 weakness exploit. It's like, well, what is the meaning of those skills if everybody has them, right? That's the thing, I feel like.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think, though, that I guess the way you show prestige has just changed in Monster Hunter from kind of like what your skills are and your armor to what weapon you've got or what armor you're wearing to showcase what you've got. But no, it is interesting, because I do like having to make decisions when I'm putting together sets, especially for someone that's an elemental focused player. It's like, what am I going to sacrifice to get Fire 5 and things like that, or elemental crit and stuff.
I think that when it comes to this question, you've already kind of answered it with the stuff where we're talking about earlier of the team is looking forward. So it's like negative skills are in the back.
Well, you never know. Like I said, when you look at switch skills in Rise, you can definitely see the foundation of them in Generations.
With styles.
There's nothing wrong with looking over your shoulder, but this isn't me obviously hinting at anything at all. Just kind of putting context to it. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. Oh my god, that threw me way back. Oh.
So Benjamin Herrera 539 says, "My question is, how often does the Monster Hunter team at Capcom watch content from Monster Hunter fans, whether that's on YouTube or other platforms, speedruns, lores, discussion type videos?" And it's like, it's interesting because I remember when I was at the office, people were almost treating me like, "Oh, I was told a celebrity was here today." I was like, "What the hell do you mean?" What?
Who?
Somebody lied to you.
I mean, yeah, it's a good question. So starting from the humble community managers, obviously myself, Joe, and the other regional CMs, we watch a lot of Monster Hunter content, a lot of YouTube content. We dip in on streams when we can. It's good to know what the creators are talking about. It's also fun to watch. Pardon me, because we like watching the game being played. I know that obviously the dev team are also interested in what creators are saying and who are the ones to watch. Who are the people that champion the game, and people, because yourself, you're a very influential member of the Monster Hunter community. What you say has weight and value to other players, other community members. So that, the team are always like, who are the community VIPs? Who are the evangelists? Who are the people that influence the Monster Hunter community? So yeah, they do have an interest, and whilst I can't say exactly X person watches these people and videos, they are interested, and it does matter to them, because ultimately you have influence on the community, and they love to see their game played. They love to see their game played. They love to see people enjoying the game, because with us as well, when we do our content creator reports, like, oh, who's been playing the new title update? Who's been playing, when Sunbreak launched? Sentiment is the biggest thing. Did they like it? What did their viewers think? And that's the most important thing for the team. How did it go? Did they like it? Were they having fun? What was their feedback?
I look at it like whenever I see a new a content creator that I know is playing Monster Hunter for the first time, I always like tuning in and watching what they're doing and whatnot. A couple of months ago we had Asmongold go through, and I was like, "Oh, that's friggin' hilarious!" Seeing him overcharge the great sword, and he had no idea he was doing it and whatnot. But it was also fun seeing him go after the Rathian that shows up during the Baroth quest. He's like, "I'm go after him and get her."
This is it. It's on. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Return to World was fantastic for bringing even more creators into Monster Hunter and them trying it out for the first time. And yeah, it's fun. It's always nervous because you're like, "Oh, I hope they like it. I hope they like it. I hope they like it." And I'm just the community manager. I'm not one of the actual developers who make the game. It's always exciting and nerve-wracking, but to see them enjoy it as well and settle in, and how many different chats are like, "Oh, you're finally playing Monster Hunter," or "Oh, this is my favorite weapon," or "Oh, you need to use this weapon because it's the best one." In regards to say great sword or whatever, not the Rathalos sword or whatever. So the team are aware, they do care, and they do appreciate they say the Pan Western creator community.
So one from Antonio Cunningham, he says, "Here's a question, or more like a suggestion to Monster Hunter developers. Does Capcom have any measures to ensure people who want to play their games like Monster Hunter Wilds as they're intended won't have to deal with modders or cheaters?" That one's. It's a concern now because of the whole crossplay thing, if that is a thing, and I'm assuming that very much like Exoprimal. If crossplay is implemented, it is optional, because in Exoprimal you can turn it off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can just turn it off and play only within the ecosystem that you're in if you want to. But I know that there are some people out there that still look at the PC platform, give it a little bit of the side eye, because you can do a lot of stuff on PC, obviously, and people are concerned with having their saves corrupted and stuff like that, which can happen in certain games.
Yeah, so talking about game integrity and cheating, obviously this is something Capcom takes very seriously. We want people to have fun, and you have fun by people playing fair and not cheating. There's nothing worse than someone, you might read a thing on Reddit, someone's coming and they one-tap monsters or something like that because they're using an exploit cheat. We take that very seriously, and when we are notified of cheats or cheat engines or individuals using cheats, we do look into it. Because we want everyone to have fun, we want it to be safe, and we want it to be fair, and we don't want people ruining the experience for others. So no, we do take security very, very seriously, and if you do, so for example, I'm very accessible on Twitter. You find something that's not there. Because I mean, our terms of service and our video policy make it very clear Capcom's stance on cheats and things like that. And I'm not talking like in-game cheats that might but like cheat engines, third-party cheats and stuff like that. We make it very clear our stance. So doors always open if anyone wants to anonymously poke.
So I am curious about one thing on the back of this. Like, where does Capcom stand in terms of people cheating in on single player games, for instance? Like,
I don't know.
Because like in multiplayer, I think the community overall is like, listen, in multiplayer, you don't bring that stuff to multiplayer. Like that's my personal stance on it. It's like on your single player game, you do whatever you want. That's my stance. You do whatever you want on your single player game. You want to, one-shot monsters. I don't care. But on my lobbies, I don't want to see any of that, right?
Come to my house.
Yeah, come to my house. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, on that one, I guess I'd have to put on like my CM hat and be like, basically refer to the Capcom terms of use and policy around cheats and altering the game beyond what it was created as. But yeah, it's all in there. Good old everyone loves a good terms of service.
Good old EULA.
So you can Google it, and it's all in there. But if in doubt, play fair, play hard.
Yeah. So this one's from Dathid, and he says 3 questions for Jonno. Number 1, favorite monster.
Brachydios.
Monster that kicked your butt the hardest.
Recently, Risen Shigeru Megala.
Oh yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah.
Favorite monster theme or BGM in general?
There's 2, which are kind of neck and neck, and I did vote for Raging Bracky in the BGM vote we did. It's between that and Alatreon's theme, like the Iceborne Alatreon theme. They're neck and neck.
So it's like my favorite theme was actually not a choice because it's all about the monsters. My favorite, I think my favorite theme ever in Monster Hunter might actually be the arena theme from Rise.
Ah,
I
nice.
friggin'
gets you kind of.
I get super hyped when I'm on the arena. It's really, really good. I friggin' love it. But yeah, and obviously my favorite monster is Seething Basel Goose. Just in case anybody cares, Seething Basel Goose is the best monster in the game.
Big bluey purple explosions. It's a cool evolution. I say evolution, of design.
Yeah.
For the monster.
I think probably who kicked me the hardest was probably Alatreon. Alatreon beat my face.
Yeah, I mean it was a hard hunt, and that's one reason why I like the music as well, because there's like the heartbeat and the music ramping up, because you're against the clock. Yeah, and you're like, oh god, is it happening? Is it happening now? Am I close? Yeah, like the pieces of the puzzle connect so well, and it's the same with Rage and Bracky when you're in the final part of that hunt, and it's like it's one of us is leaving. And it's not,
it's pretty badass. That moment, change and that change that they've done for Raging Bracky was phenomenal.
Yeah,
the whole thing, like we're not getting out of here. One of my favorite
hunts.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
So
two enter, one leaves, basically. Yeah.
So CD4, and I kind of like hesitating on putting this one in here because I'm not a big fan of this particular game. But hi, Rurikhan, can you please let the community manager know that the new update to Monster Hunter Now, where Huntathons find players from all over, is amazing? And if you could talk about when Elder Dragons will be added and how it will be handled.
So, well, first of all, great to hear you're having a ton of fun with Monster Hunter Now. It's nice. It's a good excuse to get outside in game, get some vitamin D. But the development on Monster Hunter Now is all handled by Niantic, so I don't have that kind of insight that I do on in-house games. But basically, if you're following their social media accounts, you're in the best place to find out as and when, because they're really communicative around that.
There, see, CD4, I was fair. I didn't prune your comment because you brought up the mobile game, right?
No bias here.
So this one's from our very good friend, Fightin' Cowboy.
Hey!
My question is,
uh-oh.
Why hasn't the GOAT Abyssal Lagi made a return? I know about the model issues with Leviathans, but Mizu and Somna came into Rise. Why does Lagi get no love?
Receipts.
Release my Scaly boy! This part was written in caps, so I had to scream it out.
Yeah, well, what can I say? Monster Hunter Stories is if you want some laggy action, June 14th.
There you go.
There you have it. And obviously, I know like Stories 2 has Ivory laggy accuracy. I know it's not Abyssal, but
it has regular laggy as well. I played. I think regular laggy was a part of my main loadout. Even I loved laggy in that game. It's really cool. But yeah, see. Fighting Cowboy, Jonno pulled the reverse with the Monster
well,
Hunter
actually, yes. Yeah, no. So yeah, no. If you are missing laggy, you can get your laggy fill soon with Stories. But yeah, also it's great to see laggy get that love in the community poll because it was in the top 3. I think it came third.
Laggy was really high. I was surprised. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it Zenoga, Nergigante, and then laggy Acros?
Yeah.
And so it's cool to see.
Me and Gaijin,
I get it. So.
Me and Gaijin went over the different regional listings and whatnot on one of the Third Fleet podcasts too. Yeah, because it was very different depending on where you were. I forget which region it was, but I think it was Japan. But in one region, Nergigante took like 2 of the top 3 slots.
Yeah,
it was Nergi and Ruiner.
Yeah.
People really loved them.
Yeah, because Japan had Zenoga, obviously. Was like their number 1, and probably had a big impact on the overall outcome. And then I definitely saw Nergigante. I know Gormagala was in either Europe or the US or both.
Oh yeah, we were hard carrying us in Europe. I think we're hard carrying Gormagala, if I remember correctly. Yeah, we loved Gore.
So that was good to see. I really liked that. And Bracky made top 20, so I think top 20. So I was happy.
Yeah. Nova Treebrush asks, favorite weapon to monster matchup where the moveset of the weapon feels like it's best built to fight a specific monster for you?
That is a good question. So for me, Sword and Shield struggles at taller monsters with tails. So I'm going to rule out a load of monsters immediately. However, I think Sword and Shield for Kolv Taroth and Nergigante, especially because you can block. I think, okay, to narrow it down, I'm going to say Sword and Shield, Nergigante.
Yeah, I would say that probably. Damn it, I forget what was some of the. I mean, any of the crustaceans with the gun lance, because I don't care where I hit. It's like.
Yeah, it's shell. No,
it doesn't matter. Anything that has big, thick armor and I can bring out the gun lance and hit it, like that's always super cool. Another one that I was thinking about was Nakarkos, because you can just hit him anywhere. Yeah, that's an old one.
That is a classic.
Yeah, dude, Nakarkos, love that. Third Fleet Hunter asks, "What's your opinion about Gobel, and would you love to see him return?"
I liked Gobel. I thought it was a fun hunt. So yeah, I mean, there's so many monsters. I mean, we all have our favorites, and it's like, who would you want to see? I wouldn't object to seeing it return. I like the design because was it trying to remember what the name of the actual fish are with the little lights above their head.
Anglerfish.
Yeah. I think it's a really cool design and a really fun fight wherever you're fighting it. But yeah, I wouldn't object to seeing it return. I wouldn't be like, oh man, I would rather have X kind of thing. I'd be like, yeah, nice, So yeah, soft spot for it.
This next one's going to be a hard one. Gary Ball Fitness. You're on a desert island. You can only bring one Monster Hunter game with you. There's no online. What game are you bringing? He says his game would be Generations Ultimate because it has the most content.
Fair comment. That'll keep you busy for a long time. I would go for Sunbreak because it's got followers, and I would have company.
That's a good answer.
Yeah. So I would still be able to have a multiplayer experience, and I could, if I started to go a bit crazy from the isolation, I could emote and talk to them. Like, oh, they're talking to me. give me a kiss, Noah. Like
conversations with the followers.
So you're never truly alone when you've got the followers from something.
I would definitely do Iceborne. I would do Iceborne. It's like there's so much content in Iceborne, even though I'm not a big fan of what was it called? The Wyvern Stake Blast was very frustrating in some of the later monsters. I would still do Iceborne because I just have so many good memories from that game. It was awesome. So yeah.
It's like a warm hug when you go back to it.
Yeah, exactly. Deep Predator says, I only have one real question, which I'd love to know the answer. Why isn't Monster Hunter Stories 2 on the disc of the physical version of Monster Hunter Stories collection for PS4? I wasn't even aware this was the case.
Oh yeah, so yeah, the physical edition, the disc has Stories 1 on it.
Stories 1, but not
Stories 2 is download. Honestly, I don't know. It's probably linked to some developer codey stuff or something or like file size that I'm not smart enough to know about, because it's on that side. It's not in the haha social media side.
yeah. I kind of wish, almost as a bit of feedback, it's like I feel like people, when they buy physical versions, they really want to get like the actual
on the disc.
On the disc. Like it was the same thing with I think Rise and Sunbreak. If you buy the Sunbreak version, it only has Rise 1.0 on it, if I'm not mistaken, and the rest is just the code, which it's not ideal. I mean, not the PlayStation version, probably. I don't know how the PlayStation version actually
it's
works.
Not something I'm overly familiar with, especially because I think as an individual, I've mostly moved over to digital as well, and I tend to get physical when there's like a collector's edition.
I miss physical.
That I like.
I miss physical so much. Yeah.
Well, it's like, when Elden Ring came out, I was like, right, collector's edition or like steelbook edition and stuff like that. So if I'll snag a steelbook and then I'll go physical, but a lot of the time I'm digital because there's no physical game shops near me, really. And when you order by post, it might not come on.
But you live in the middle of the country. You're not a particularly good example, though.
I'm not in the cities, no.
So, Jojo Fine 8 asks, how does the team feel about the slow and steady growth of the series as a whole? Growing up, all I knew about Capcom was Street Fighter, Resident Evil, Mega Man, and some other stuff, but never learned about Monster Hunter until 2018 with World. And now it's one of their biggest franchises.
I think that was the experience for a lot of people, and I think seeing the team and talking to them is they're really happy that their hard work and passion is bearing fruit. And as I said at the start of the call as well, they're very humble about it. They don't take it for granted at all. They're always looking at what's best for Monster Hunter, what's the next step for Monster Hunter. What's best, what are the community going to like? How can we get even more people involved and support the community and give them what they want as well? So no, they're really happy about it. They're very passionate. I love having meetings with the team in Japan because they're so passionate and fun to work with. And just everyone's really happy, and we're excited for what's next.
So Banana Jogbra actually had 2 questions. I feel like one of them we've already answered, which was how does the Monster Hunter team gather feedback from the community, and what role does this feedback play in shaping future updates and expansions? How they gather feedback, it's Jonno and Joe Bustas pretty much, I think. Right?
Yeah, we've got like data analysis tools. We've got us as well. So there's smart tools that look at sentiment, and then there's me and Joe that manually are going in, and we have regional CMs.
The shaping of thing, one of the biggest examples I feel like has to be Fatalis. Like, I'm sorry I'm cutting in, but it's like Fatalis then obviously Primal Malzeno, which I wasn't even I don't remember if we talked about it being something that wasn't even potentially planned, because it felt like Primordial Malzeno was always meant to end that way because, you have the quest line and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I feel like Fatalis is definitely one of the better examples, but I'm sorry, you should go.
No, you're right. No, like feedback is always important. And even because a lot of the time the focus is on negative feedback, oh, this optimized this, or this is broken, or I don't like that, or, you sort of, Alatreon is too hard kind of thing. And, but also what people do like is important, but people are normally less inclined to share what they do like unless you're doing like one of our like polls, or it's like, where we're like, we want your feedback. So no, it absolutely, can have an impact. And it won't be like, oh, well, I think this weapon should have this move, or this monster should be in the game, and suddenly someone goes, oh, it's an ogre or whatever, So, but when you see people talking about it, it does matter, and it might not happen for years, but someone somewhere has gone, or we see enough people talking about it and it aligns with the vision of developers, then they're like, okay, we know this is the right move to make. Yeah. So it can have an impact, and it can be a small impact, or it can be a bigger impact, like, as you said, with extra content because the game is supported, people are still enjoying the game. So the team are like, let's put some, dev time and money into this to create more content.
The second question, though, I feel is much more interesting, which is, he said, with the continuous growth of Monster Hunter player base, how does the team balance catering to veteran players' expectations while also making the game accessible and enjoyable for newcomers?
I think that's a fantastic question.
Rough balancing act.
Yeah, exactly. Because, as I said, the team are all about respecting what they have. and looking after what they have and not losing sight of that whilst bringing in new audiences. And I think a good example of that is, once again, good old the follower system in Sunbreak, a totally optional thing that attracts and helps players selling, because it's a supporting aid. It helps you in the hunt, but it doesn't detract anything from the core kind of experience more experienced players will be used to. And I know that the next bit is a bit more controversial, but you look at stuff like the Defender gear to help players that have no idea how Monster Hunter plays, or their very first game because they've seen someone else play it, to help them settle in. And I know that it's purely optional and it's free, but I know some people don't like. I know exactly. This is why it's a more extreme example, because I think the follower system is a very palatable example for everyone, because it's a fun mechanic. You can use it if you want. It's off to the side if you want to use it. It's really well implemented, but it doesn't take away from the hunt and the achievement. Because if you go up against a nails hard monster, you're still going to triple cart. They're not going to stop you from being bodied if you are not ready to beat that monster. They might push you over if you're like just behind where you should probably be, but they're not going to be like, you're going to have Hinora Minoto popping out the gun show and like beating Risen Shigaru down, So yeah, I think the team are always conscious about that. What do our existing community want? What would help new people come and enjoy Monster Hunter? And it's that kind of balance. And also, what new stuff that's bought is enjoyable for existing. I love the follower system. I think it's awesome. So it's that. Yeah, the team are always very conscious of that balancing act. And sometimes it's more obvious, like with the Defender gear, however however you fall on it. And sometimes it's more like subtle, like say like follower systems and stuff like that.
So the next three last questions are way easier. So Death Diamond 15 says, silly question, what are y'all's favorite monster and which would win in a fight? So you said Braki or Raging Braki? So just regular Braki.
So in the monster poll, I voted for Braki because you wouldn't have Raging Braki without Braki. So you gotta pay respect to the OG.
But is Braki your answer then?
Braki is my answer.
Then
if you pick Raging Braki now.
No, because I have Seething Basilgoose, and Seething Basilgoose will destroy Braki.
My man loves explosions. Of course, he'll be fine. He'll laugh. He'll love it.
I don't know. And what's he gonna do to hurt me? I can fly.
I'm gonna put slime on the floor, and then when you come and do your belly flop, you're gonna slide into the slime and explode.
I literally said I can fly, and you're gonna I'm gonna put slime on the floor.
So what? But you know all those clips you see of Baz, coming in invading. The first thing he does, like slamming into the ground. But the thing is, they're both explosive monsters, so they're probably going to be quite resistant to each other. So they're going to be like slugging it out for ages.
Yeah, probably. But I just feel like if you were to say Raging Braki, I'd be like, okay, I concede. Raging Braki will destroy Seething Basil.
Raging Braki is so tall. Like it could probably reach
you. Yeah, he could reach you.
Yeah, whereas like normal Braki is a little bit shorter.
Yeah, he's a short stack. He would get beat up.
Yeah, it'd definitely be a very explosive fight either way.
That would be a glorious fight to watch.
Yeah.
So Fran's Friends says, what's the hardest part of Jonno's job besides landing those hits on monsters? Damn, shade. Shade.
That's an interesting question. The hardest part. I mean, it's
having to deal with Rurikhan harassing him all the time.
Oh, horrendous!
It's annoying.
I see that Discord notification, and I just have to have another glass of coffee. And he's like, "Oh,
here comes the Portuguese guy again.
What does he want now?" He's talking about Defender gear again. I'm going to block it. No, it's. I mean, from like, I don't know. It's a very interesting one because sometimes I think streaming can be especially challenging when you've gone from an environment where you're talking about things that are coming up in the future or dates and stuff, like around digital events for Sunbreak, especially because we were really deep into Sunbreak streaming, and you would know that there would be like a digital event, like for title update whatever in like March or whatever, and
then you have to stream without talking
spring
about it.
Yeah, so internally you're being specific, and then you go to stream and you say spring. like in your head constantly. So you're trying to stream and play to a good standard. You're trying to engage with chat, and you also have to make sure that you are in front-facing speaking mode. Yeah. So you're saying spring. You're saying like, you know, a new monster will be revealed or whatever, or even though might know what it is.
what the monster is
so
and stuff,
the mental drain on that, like after a stream, I love the streaming, by the way. I love playing with the community. I really enjoy playing the game. Playing the game. But I love streaming. I love streaming with the community. But afterwards you're exhausted because you're a professional content creator streamer yourself. Like more so than me. Way more so than me. But me doing it once a week. And but it's so draining because you're concentrating on so many different things, and you're making sure that you are, you don't accidentally drop something. So you have to really kind of focus and pace yourself and think about how you do things. So that's like a physically demanding thing, and it sounds weird to say that is physically demanding, but I think it's the mental focus. And how you do things.
I can imagine, because especially if you know something and you got to be careful not to just blurt it out. It's it can be quite taxing. Yeah.
Especially when it's like a monster that's like, like Primordial Marzano.
Right? Oh my god.
Or a Matsu. And sometimes you'll say a monster name that can be like the syllable or pronunciation will be similar. So if you're not careful, your brain could slip. And you could say the monster's name because you've been saying it normally in conversation.
You should just do like the community manager who just said, okay, we're just gonna call him Steve.
Yeah.
And now that's his name forever.
That's his name.
He's just called Steve.
So that would be, I think, the most physically demanding part, because afterwards I'm exhausted because you're like, whew, I've used up my mental focus. But other than that, like sometimes reading, because we don't get personally attacked so far, which is nice. But pardon me, reading some feedback or comments that kind of totally missed the mark in regards to, like, they've kind of misunderstood or not got what it is and have misinterpreted it and are kind of lashing out. Not like, oh, they don't like this and they're lashing out, which is fair enough. Like, please let us know, good and bad. But it's when it's kind of like they kind of go off the deep end and kind of like misinformation kind of stuff. That's hard because we can't just reach out and go, no, you're wrong. Don't listen to them. You have to watch it play out and hope that others kind of actually go, well, actually, this is what it is.
Because
it spreads so easily.
If you reach out and you do the thing, then the other people are going to go back and going to be like, see, he's lying again.
And especially when it's not in an owned space. So, not like it happens, but say Reddit, for example, the subreddit is community run, community owned. The moderation team handle all of that. We don't get involved at all. I go in there. Sometimes I post, but people don't know it's me, even though if you see the name, you'd twig. But I go and comment now and again, just about fun stuff. It's when you see stuff that you can't reach down and be like, oh well, actually, and just seeing how it plays out. That can be hard because we care as well. Like, we genuinely care. Like, it sounds silly. Like, we love Monster Hunter 2, which is why we do this job, and why we got picked. And to see like slander when it's not accurate is, it sucks because you're like, oh man, I hope people don't get the wrong end of the stick on that.
Yeah, I get it. And finally, this one's very important. We need to get this one right. And I need to scream it out because he typed it out in all caps. Does Devil Joe eat his tail? From Red, fortunately.
Oh, that is a good question. And one that was raised, I know, when we did the developer roundtable kind of not too long ago with the 20th anniversary. And people kind of bringing that up.
Does Devil Joe eat his own tail? Do the Wyverians lay eggs? Like...
these deep questions, these mysteries. Who knows? I mean, who knows?
Maybe. We don't know the answer. Nobody knows the answer.
Will we ever know? Who knows? Only Devil Joe knows.
Anyway, Jonno, you have any last words?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, shameless plug for Monster Hunter Stories coming out on again, and obviously on new platforms on June 14. It is lovely. It's a great RPG. don't let the graphics make you think it's a kiddie game, because it's not. It's a really deep RPG system, and it's got some of your favorite monsters that you can team up with instead of mercilessly slaying, to show your gratitude to them. So do check it out if you're looking for a nice turn-based combat RPG experience. Other than that, obviously, we love in all your hype for Monster Hunter Wilds. Obviously, summer, every day is another day closer to summer. So thank you all so much for your passion. Genuinely, like, the team really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me as well. It's always a pleasure to chat and catch up, mate, and to answer questions.
All right. Well, thank you very much for making the time. I'm sorry I took so much of your time. Even this went a little bit longer than I initially predicted. So thank you very much for taking the time. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode of Kast, hit the like button, subscribe, bell, notification icon, and all of that jazz, so that you're always up to date with Monster Hunter news that I will be reporting on the second that, I'm given the information and allowed to speak on it. I'll be sure to be posting a whole lot about that, but for now, that's going to be it. Monster Hunter has reached 100 million units sold. Here's to many more. We'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.